white cartoon pictures. Now there was a woman that Betty Boop is actually, there was a real life, let's see what this looks, you see, this was a sort of a dark-skinned lady, but very pretty, right? And she was like,
yeah, I see her. Yeah,
that's the real Betty Boop there.
Mm-hmm.
The real Betty Boop was whitewashed out of history. Okay, just 1930s, 40s, right? But there's something that you would notice about Betty Boop if you look at the cartoon images. Like, let's take this one for instance. Oh yeah, here we go. You see, most people's eyelashes are only over the top of the eyes. You see what I mean?
Yes.
Betty Boop's
Hey, you got your little black square. That little square is in the way. Can you move that? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't really get rid of that. That's.
I always just make it all go all the way. Just let the top stick out.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Now it's out of the way.
Yeah, so here's Betty Boop, but she's got eyelashes from the tops and the bottoms and the sides.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's what's different about Betty Boop.
Mm-hmm. I see that. I never noticed it before.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good picture. This is like Marilyn Monroe with her dress.
Yeah.
Right, you remember that?
Of course.
Let's see.
Some like it hot.
Shows eyelashes, right? Yeah, there's Betty Boop with her eyelashes that go all the way around her eyes.
Yeah.
Big, right? I mean, she's not like a Neanderthal or anything like that. Far from it, right? But those are big eyes. And I've also got something that I want to talk to you about, which is called, get back to Google here, Wandjina.
Aren't we going to stay on the Betty Boop?
Yes and no.
Okay. Okay, well, I'll just let you go with wherever you want to go. I won't make you turn left.
Okay, Betty Boop is related to these.
Oh, I see. There's a point.
Yeah, I'm not just playing games with you.
Okay, okay.
Okay, this is a very kind of a common petroglyph theme in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Outback, right? And here you get
the Lightning Brothers.
I'm sorry?
The Lightning Brothers.
Yeah, well, you see, most people assume this is a human face, right? Mm-hmm. There's only one human face that there's ever been that had eyelashes going all the way around tops, bottoms, and sides. So who might that be?
Betty Boop.
Yeah.
I get it.
Okay. And you also have like Wandjina images which show like spike proteins. This is before the COVID age, right?
Mm-hmm.
Age of anything like that, but like spike proteins going all the way around. Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
Not only have the eyelashes going all the way around the eyes, they've got, something entirely similar to eyelashes going around their heads, okay?
Mm-hmm, I see that. And,
I could only include about 3 of these pictures in the book right now. Let me see, what do I have here that looks like a book? Here I've got Betty Boop. I see in the book where it talks about, down at the bottom of the thing that talks about illustrations, it talks about Jupiter in past ages, okay?
Okay.
And you've got the question of Wandjina, and you've got the one person on Earth that the Wandjina could represent if they're supposed to represent a human that there's ever been, right, which is Betty.
I get it.
And then you've got the question of sunspots or star spots, if you're talking about dwarf stars like Jupiter and Saturn used to be.
Right.
And this is the kind of electrical stuff. This is the kind of electrical tufting that you get around sunspots, right? Now you notice the sunspots are black, right? And that tells you something also. See, it's like if a star actually was a thermonuclear engine,
Yep.
then sunspots would be blue or white. I mean, they would be hotter than the exterior. You know, what you're seeing here is that, you know, you're seeing past the surface of the star. You're seeing into the interior of the star. And what you're seeing is that the interior of the star is substantially cooler than the surface, right? And you've got, you know, an area where the electrical activity breaks down, and and you've got like star spots, right? You've got electrical tufting. Now, this is what I believe, and this isn't my own work here. It's like, this is, you know, I get people sending me things, right? And some of the people who send me things are brighter than I am. This is one of those cases, right? And this person wants to remain anonymous. We're going to refer to him as Mr. X, right? But Mr. X has noticed that, like, you know, the other thing that these Wandjina eyelashes could really be is electrostatic tufting. You know, tufting like you would get around a star spot. Okay.
Yeah.
And the question.
I think I know who it is. I won't say.
Yeah. Okay. The question that comes up is Jupiter, right? It's like, if you had another one of these pictures here. So, see, we don't really have much in the way of pictures of Jupiter like from 4,000, 5,000 years ago. We've got these neat pictures that the Thunderbolts group have produced, where you have Saturn showing up as the Shamanic glyph, right?
Yes.
You have the outer rim of Saturn, and then you've got this blue body, which I believe had to have been Neptune, and then you've got Mars, right, which is red. You're not going to see anything like that on Saturn, right? You know, the body of Saturn is mainly occulted by Neptune, by the blue body, and then by Mars, right? So if this were Saturn, then you wouldn't see it right now. If I don't really picture Neptune or Uranus having been dwarf stars, so I don't have an easy time picturing these pictures of the Wandjina being Neptune or Uranus. But Jupiter, you see, we don't have much in the way of pictures of Jupiter or anything, you know, anything like a Jupiter version of the Shamanic glyph. And if Jupiter was easily visible from Australia, 4,000, see, we've got like a very short sort of a Jovian age, right? You've got the Golden Age, right, which is an age in which, you know, the final age in which the Earth was still aligned with Saturn. And then you've got the flood, and then you've got this brief age in which the Earth had been passed off to Jupiter. But we don't have anything really in the way of pictures of that, right? And I believe that this is the missing picture.
Okay.
Let me try to go to the other browser here. And why not have, these are pictures of star spots, right? And when you start looking at star spots for dwarf stars, oh man, that's my cell phone telling me that get ready for the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
You want to do it again?
Oh, no, it's fine.
Okay.
We're aware. There's a Wandjina, right? You can see some of the pictures. Somewhere I had a picture of rolled away. Star spots, dwarf star spots. Let me see if I can.
Yeah. Should put dwarf first, maybe.
Dwarf star.
There it is, right on the top.
Yeah. When you look at the star spots that you get on dwarf stars, some of them are relatively big. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't be hard to look at this picture and think you were seeing two eyes.
Right.
If you had a close version of it, which showed the eyelashes, which showed the tufting, then you might have your picture of Jupiter from the Jovian age, right? And if this picture was easily visible from Australia, then you would probably have to assume that the people in Greece and Rome may have never really had that good a look at it. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
Okay, in other words, you've got a lot of mythology, you've got a lot of written traditions, you've got a lot of, literature, but you don't have much in the way of images coming from this Jovian age, which is the age between the flood and the Trojan War, more or less, right?
Right.
And I'm thinking that this is the nature of the story here that you have as far as Jupiter goes. You understand what I'm saying, right? It's like you've got like a whole world of images that you could pick from. You could probably come up with something a bit better than that.
Yeah.
It's
okay. I understand what you're saying.
It's like I believe that Wandjina represents Jupiter, and that the eyelashes that you see are the electrical tufting that you get from star spots. And all it would take is a dwarf star with two of these star spots that were halfway big like this, which showed the tufting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's your missing Jupiter equivalent of something like that Shamash glyph.
Mm-hmm.
There it is, right?
Right.
It's astonishing that they have cameras and now and computers which are good enough to give us these pictures of dwarf stars anywhere close to us.
Yes, no doubt. Those are real pictures and not artist renderings?
Yeah, as far as I know, these are real pictures, right?
Okay.
And size of red dwarf stars, right? And here you've got like mostly star spots, right? In other words, you've only got like a few places on the surface where it lights up.
Mm-hmm.
Substellar object, right? Well,
yeah.
Rare eclipsing brown dwarf.
Stay up.
At any rate.
Now that looks like an artist rendering.
Yeah, that looks sort of like Jupiter, right? I mean, like I said, it wouldn't take much.
No.
But
no, and Jupiter, I think Jupiter, Saturn, and the Sun, they're the middle on all three bodies rotates faster than the poles.
Right. Still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay, I don't really mean to go to Facebook here.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, you're right. It was fast. That'd be a good fast video.
Okay, but I mean that's I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, of course it is.
Nobody else has figured this one out.
Mm-hmm.
My man out there has figured it out, right? And in the book, starting on page 247, I guess. Okay, so amongst the kinds of petroglyphs you might see in the Australian outback is what native Australians call Wandjina figures, characterized by huge eyes with eyelashes going entirely around the eyes, similarly by short hairs, entirely like the eyelashes going around the heads. Okay, so I mean that's the basic story. Every other thing that I've ever seen written about Wandjina has either said that they tried to come up with some kind of an explanation. They're not coming up with anything. They're saying like maybe they're supposed to be hypnotic. That they're supposed to be, something that would induce one of these trance states like Julian Jaynes was talking about. Like if you stare at one of these pictures long enough, maybe you'd hypnotize yourself. No, these are pictures of something they're seeing in the sky. And, you know, I think the something had like 2 of these star spots like that.
Mhm.
And you saw the electrical tufting, and I think that's the basic reality of it. You know, and then you get the same kind of tufting around the edge of the star.
Okay.
So at least that's what almost all have assumed. Or seeing a friend who wishes to remain anonymous claims that is entirely wrong. The only way that any of those figures with lashes going around the eyes represents a human face is if the face is that of Betty Boop, right? You know, so there you have
Yeah, I get it.
it. Okay, that's like I say, it makes for 2 pages in the book, but I think that would make for a very interesting little
Absolutely.
interesting little 10 or 15-minute video, right? And like I say, I've got a complete exclusive on it. It's like,
Yep.
you know,
That's good. Yep. Okay, Ted.
I was looking at your YouTube channel the other day, and it's pretty sophisticated. That's way ahead of me on YouTube.
No,
Okay.
well,
What I would like to do would be one way or another, ideally to find a way to link your video system, which includes interviews with me, to my own YouTube channel, you know, which is the Ganymede hypothesis. Have you
yes.
seen?
Oh, yes, you can do that. It's pretty easy. You just, do you want me here? I'll show you. This is all you have to do. When you go to my homepage, let's see, my channel, you see, first there's the video that shows when everyone comes on. Then there's my videos, my live streams, Thunderbolts. Then you.
Are you trying to show your own screen now, or do you want me to go?
Yes. Yeah, stop showing your screen for a second.
That's right.
I can just give you the link to your playlist.
Give me a second.
All right. I can share my screen with you.
Unshare
your screen.
Trying to figure out how to do that just yet.
Well, you go to the little, right
Okay.
there. Okay.
Just-
All right, now I'll share my screen. Hold on. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. All right. Now you should be looking at my screen.
Not quite yet. Hang on. Oh yeah, I need to enlarge this. Hang on. I haven't figured a way to get this thing bigger just yet. Hang on.
I can just give you the link, Ted.
I'm not having any luck making this thing bigger.
It's all right, man. I'll show you. You click on your playlist. It's like 4th on my thing. And here, I'll put the link to your playlist in Skype chat. Now you can do whatever you want to do. You have it.
Hang on. Why is this so hard to do?
You're all set. Just look at chat for Skype.
I'm having a hard time getting anywhere with Skype right now. Hang on, Gregory is recording this call.
Yeah.
Share screen, no. Chat, let me just click on chat.
That's for you, Andy.
Ted has.
All you got to do is you go to my channel, but that's the link to it. And
yeah, I'm not getting anywhere right now.
okay.
Give me.
So let me know when you have it.
These are things that I use once in a blue moon, right? So it's like, you know, I can go a certain ways with Skype, right? And then things start to snarl up. Chat. Tried. Man.
Well, you got to open Skype. You just click on the title, and you'll have a little thing where you can get the link from it.
Okay. Content overview, Gregory Hunt. Gregory is sharing. Stop.
You just bring up the home. You should be sharing screens. I'm going to unshare the screen till you figure it out.
Give me a moment. I'm still seeing the screen of yours, right? Still there?
You should be looking at yourself right now.
Yeah, okay, I'm looking at, Yeah, that's right. I am. I'm looking at myself.
Okay, now when I drop it, you're looking at my home page. Correct, Jay?
Right.
See it? Okay. Now, if you go to the first, the second, the third, the fourth line, that's your playlist of all the videos we've done. Then,
Okay.
if you just click on the title, right here, when you hit this share button,
Yeah.
you get the link.
Oh, okay. So it's like, and then you just put that in. I put that in my own
Yes.
channel.
Yes.
Okay.
Right
I can figure that out from there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
How
all you
many-
got to do.
I was watching your little, the video that we did about Neanderthals the other day. It was sort of cute, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the way they start off with that.
With yeah. Yeah, I like to do weird stuff like that.
Right. No, but I mean, that's artistry. That's, I mean, that gets attention. And
What we're going to do is go back. Way
Yeah.
back. Yeah. Neanderthal.
right.
Remember that song?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's good old fashioned rock and roll, right? So you got to get.
Andy wants to come on. I'm gonna bring him on. Hold on a second.
Sure.
Andy's a fan of yours.
Right.
All right. Okay, come on, oh boy. This would have been good for him to see about the Wandjinas.
Yeah.
He'll be here in a second. He's my bro. We think a lot alike. Andy, there you are, my man. How you doing, bud?
Yeah, not bad, mate.
Oh, he had a good one. You want to show it again, Ted?
I just showed a little bit of it, right? It only takes.
All right, share your page again. Share your channel again. This is about the Wandjinas, from where you come from.
Yeah, this is about what Australians were seeing when they looked up in the sky 4,000, 5,000 years ago.
Okay, I stopped sharing.
Right. Chat. Oh man.
You'll come back.
Problems getting Skype under control here. I can bear with you just a little bit, right?
Yep,
Like
no problem. Take your time.
Skype, react, raise hand, share screen. Here we go.
Okay.
Start sharing.
There we go. Why are you looking down? You must be on your phone.
Yeah, I'm on my phone.
Oh, that's okay. You can just move that. Yeah, there you go.
No, I'll be right. I'll fix that.
That's okay.
All right.
Fix that like that.
We're talking about a couple of pages in my book, the new version of the book, right? And
Yeah.
you know that we have pictures of the Saturn system from the Thunderbolts group, right? I mean, we know now that Shamanic glyph and the Shenbond class and all those kinds of things were pictures of Saturn and a blue body, which I regard as Neptune, and which Ed Cochran and other people still think was Venus. I don't see any way that could be Venus. Anyway, we've got a couple of short topics in the new book, right? One of which is the Neptune-Venus controversy. Another of which has to do with what the native Australians call Wandjina. You ever heard of that?
I've heard the name, but I don't know what it is.
Okay. If I go to I see. Let's get rid of that. Wandjina. Okay, these are ancient pictures that you find like in caves and canyons and whatnot in Australia. And what they show is like, they show figures that have eyelashes all the way around their eyes instead of just over the top like most of us have, right?
Yeah.
Also have fuzzy hair, which is similar to the eyelashes going around their heads. Okay, so that you see almost like spike proteins, right? Very big eyes, eyelashes that go all the way around, fuzzy things like, like eyelashes go around their heads, right? The question is, most people are supposed to be. Somebody's getting an echo.
Yeah, I'm getting the feedback. Okay.
Just hang on, no. Just hang on. That could be moving. I'll fix. Let's see.
Goes off into space.
Okay. I don't think it's me.
Oh,
No, it's not you.
It's me. It's me.
I hope I fixed it.
No, I haven't.
Anyway, these are Wandjina. The question is, what do the Wandjina represent right now? I've got a friend who claims that if the Wandjina are supposed to represent a human face, then there's only one human being in the history of the world that face could possibly belong to, and that's Betty Boop, right? So at least you understand what I'm saying. Betty Boop had eyelashes that went all the way around her eyes. She had big round eyes, right? And what you really see is this is.
What's all that sound coming from? Hold on, man. I'm gonna have to stop the recording. I remember.
This is what the term sputter refers to, breaking away of particles in the source material, which then drift in an electric field to coat the substrate. The source material is the cathode, and the substrate is the anode in the circuit. The material exchange is performed by electricity. Manufacturers often use magnetrons to shape and control the current and improve material transport efficiency with external magnetic fields. The point to be made, however, is that high voltage, low current in a plasma will erode or etch away a cathodic surface and plate itself in layers on the anodic surface. This is a process that shaped canyonlands. To fully understand these canyons, however, first we must understand domes, because the canyons are carved from a dome. The entire Colorado Plateau is a dome, or rather a series of domes overlaying each other. The domes are composed of sedimentary layers of limestone and sandstone.
That's pretty damn
The
smart.
layers are stacked for the
Figuring
most
that
part
out.
evenly and flat, like a layer cake. The basic layer cake structure is capped with the Rocky Mountains on the
Just
east
look at the
and
ground
carved into
and see.
canyons on the west, while it's shot through with the Lichtenberg pattern, vertically
It's beat
cut
up.
gorges of the Colorado and Green Rivers.
And
The
fragmented.
dome structure of the plateau and the canyons carved through it is primarily the result of natural sputtering discharge process created during an intense electrical storms. Of course, in this case, we're speaking about storms created in a past environment when Earth's electric field was amplified to the point the entire atmosphere was ionized. Imagine the atmosphere stirred into a maelstrom, lit with streamers of glowing plasma, where lightning crackled, not only in the sky, but across the land, and mountaintops glowed with coronal fire under swirling clouds of dusty plasma. It would have been surreal, a place where streams of wind became electric currents, where high and low pressure zones acted like battery terminals, and mountaintops became electrodes drawing machine gun lightning from the sky. Anything standing in the wind would have instant snapped with coronal fire. Dust in the air would have acted strange too, as the energy of free electrons collided and overpowered weaker atomic bonds,
You'll get there.
ionizing matter, causing it to act like a ferrofluid under the influence of a magnet. Ionic species segregated, forming unipolar winds that tore past each other in opposite directions, creating shear zones of intense
Ionic or
electrical discharge,
ionized means
vortex
glowing.
winds of supersonic speed. The inside of
But the Earth was still aligned with Saturn, and then you had the flood, and then you had like a very brief kind of a silver age when the Earth had been passed off to Jupiter, and we don't have any pictures of that. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm thinking that these Wandjina are the pictures of Jupiter. That's the missing picture. So Greg is going to do up some kind of a superlative video, short but superlative, on the question of dwarf stars and star spots and Betty Boop and tufting and all that kind of good stuff, right? And the question of the Wandjina. I don't picture Neptune or Uranus having been dwarf stars. And the Wandjina could not have been Saturn. See, Saturn, during all the time that we ever had any kind of a close look at Saturn, was occulted by that blue body and by Mars. I mean, if the stuff that we're seeing with the Wandjina was on Saturn, we wouldn't have seen it. Okay, the only thing that really leaves, I think, is Jupiter, right? So that, what I was telling Greg was that, if the native Australians were getting a good look at all that kind of stuff, and that sort of says that the Greeks and the Romans may have never had that terribly good a look at Jupiter, right? That may be why we don't find anything equivalent to the Shamash glyph or the Shenbond for Jupiter. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the stuff coming from Australia may be the best that we have. Probably is.
Southern Hemisphere.
Right.
So you get some of that too in New Guinea, don't you, Ted?
I'm sorry?
You get some of those. You get some of those drawings in New Guinea too.
I didn't think about it then, and I should have. But in the southern United States, they had to see Jupiter because of Ramon's work. And he has found these octagons that have circles in them that mimic the south, I think the south pole of Jupiter, or the north pole. I think it was the North Pole. And that would make sense then. If it was seen in Australia, that in the southern United States, if they saw it at all, they'd see the North Pole. So, you know, it kind of adds up right there. I forgot completely about that, the Petroglyphs video that I made with Ramon, where he says that they saw the North Pole of Jupiter. I just wanted to say that.
I think you'll find, which is, really not far from Australia.
Oh, this is just a fabulous sort of a thing, right? It's like a friend of mine, I didn't figure this one out. It's like a friend of mine figured this one out.
The Earth would have been in turmoil as well. Hot magma spewing from volcanic vents, aquifers boiling, explosive eruptions of steam from deep underground, pocking the landscape with holes. Even arcs would erupt, lightning from the ground, caused by buried pockets of charge where minerals
Lightning
and water
from the
ions.
ground.
The winds, dust-laden and electric, deposited the Colorado Plateau, plating a cake across the western half of North America in the same way semiconductor manufacturers layer circuitry onto silica wafers. The stratified layers are interspersed with magma flows, petrified forests, inland seas, and dinosaur boneyards of different ages that indicate it formed in a series of events that likely recurred over millions of years. To create the canyonlands, the voltage potential had to reverse and eat away at landscape newly laid down by the storm. Under the electric field of an electrical storm, the surface of the Earth becomes positively charged. It becomes the anode in the circuit where lightning strikes from the negative cloud base and where rain falls. In primordial ionic storms like those that form the plateau, rain did not fall, but silica did, as dust in the air fell and adhered in layers to the dome. Inland seas or layers washed over by tsunami, generated by the storm itself, became covered over with more layers of dry overburden as the storm progressed. This left a moist layer, like icing in the center of the layer cake.
It looks good.
This icing layer then ionized under intense bombardment from sputtering discharge in the eye of the storm and created what is known as barrier discharge in the moist layer beneath the ground.
Yeah, that's
which brings
crazy.
us back to Arches National Monument, proof that canyons were carved by sputtering discharge, aided by barrier discharge, in a moist layer of the big cake. This image tells most of the story. A band of rock looks tortured and fluid, as if it were boiled mud when it solidified, sandwiched between smooth, more or less even layers of stone. The canyon floor is flat, which is surprising if one accepts the consensus view that canyons
Regular just listen to this and
water
you know
erosion leaves deep channels.
they probably can't get through it.
Not flat floors. This closer
Because
image
they have their
shows
fantasy
the
in their
fluidity
head.
of the layers. At the top, the overburden rock barely sinks.
Looks like a
into the sagging
dude, doesn't
layer
it?
beneath
Doesn't it look like a
that
guy?
turned
His
plastic.
eye, you can see his eye
It
and
was
his
still
nose.
solid.
Looks like there was some.
The
Look at.
plastic layer
Come
beneath
on.
sagged.
That's
It
freaky,
didn't
man.
compress.
That's a
It
dude.
maintained a
That's a
consistent
giant.
thickness. Below that, on the bottom, the boiled
see
mud
that?
layer fluidized completely.
Is it just me, or does that dude have an eye?
Bottom layer caused it to sag beneath a solid overburden was electric current, a barrier discharge current. where no gaseous atmosphere was present to ionize.
Maybe there was a guy there and it took
but
his
instead,
form.
the moisture and minerals in the layer
Look at him.
ionized, generating a subsurface current.
It's just,
The
that
moist
blows
layer
my mind.
ionized and charged species pooled into a plasma-like mud the electric field wanted to lift away. The electric currents boiled the moist layer.
Looks
and
like a
began to
tooth.
foam and arc into the drier and electrically resistant overburden. When sputtering removed the surrounding overburden, pressure released and vapors expanded, making gas bubbles that raised the arches. Hardened pinnacles formed where mud boiled up and convective blossoms of hot ionization. One can see
They
how
were
the moist
glowing.
layer boiled and heaved, while currents arched and thrust upward, trying to break through the overburdened rock. But in this area, traces of barrier discharge remain in the rock. The empty, flat
That
canyon,
has quartz.
overburden, and moist air were carried away. It's where the
What's that?
I say, Greg, isn't there quartz in amongst that?
Yes, shocked quartz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably gold in here.
broke through
Yeah.
complete the circle.
Where is that?
I would imagine
Where is
so.
that?
Etching.
That's like in Arizona, I think you said,
Okay.
or the Colorado Rockies.
Or electric discharge machine.
Okay.
He's going to talk about those three words
Stopped
now.
in process. The wet
I
layer
know
was
I heard it
boiling
in
off
this video.
due to the current in it and lifting away with the
Maybe it was in
overburden.
another one by
Process
him.
stopped,
If it's not this one.
leaving these arches and hoodoos. It likely stopped
Look at
when the
that,
sputtering glow current suddenly jumped to arc mode and lightning struck, dissipating the charge built up in the wet boiled mud layer. Sputtering discharge is typically used in manufacturing to remove only micrometers of material. The ion bombardment on the surface of cathode material only shallowly penetrates to break atomic and
Lightning
molecular
bolts.
bonds and release
That's a
particles.
nice way of calling
So how can such a
ion
process remove
bombardment.
hundreds of feet of solid
Lightning bolts.
sandstone? Well, one reason is the strength of the electric field at work on the charged species. In the primordial storm we are discussing, the electric field would have been billions, perhaps trillions of volts. The electromotive force of such a field applied to any large pool of charged species could
What
lift it.
generated it?
And the other reason is diffusion of charge.
It had to
through
be
1,000
another
feet of
body.
dry sandstone overburden to ionize the wet layer. The section
Another
of the
body
dome
was that
overlaying
close,
the wet layer
right? It had to
acted
be.
as a solid-state
It wouldn't just get that
semiconductor,
way naturally.
coherent with
or
the
it would do it
intense
again.
electric field. Charge diffused through the silica layers in a manner to be discussed in more detail in part 2 of this article. But solid-state electronics are the way to evaluate how charge diffused through the landscape. The wet ionized layer then underwent a process called heat spike sputtering.
There it is.
Heat spike sputtering occurs
Heat
when
spike.
diffusing ionization causes secondary.
That's what causes it to get hot.
The secondary reactions occur in the wet layer, which is highly conductive and volatile. Currents heated the material, and
Current.
that caused
Yeah.
thermal liquefaction, melting, and steam microexplosions.
Mm.
In canyonlands, when the wet layer ionized, it induced currents which heat spiked, discharging from the wet layer to the layer above. The arches and bubble-like
The current
pinnacles
itself
and
is
arches
red hot,
monument
but
were
the
created by
plasma
heat spike
is super
sputtering and
cold.
bubbles of micro-explosions.
That's what
as
makes
the
it
boiled
even
mud
hotter.
layer ionized, vaporized, and discharged into the overburden.
I get it.
This short film, produced by Diefly Fish on YouTube, helps visualize the process of diffusion through rock and the process of barrier discharge that caused the boiled mud layer to boil. In it, Jim Hammond, the creator of Diefly Fish and an EU contributor, employs a high voltage Tesla circuit to generate current through a granite block. There are two things to note as you watch the film. First, note how the flow of electricity diffuses through the entire granite block. Instead of channeling directly below the electrode in a narrow stream, like an arc, it flows out the full footprint of the crystalline granite block. The external electric field of the circuit is diffusing charge through the granite as it would in a solid
I'll
state
only
body.
show a few minutes of this.
And the tense electric field surrounding the eye of the
I want to get the most important part that he's coming
Currents
to.
also diffuse through the dome matrix
I
in this
hope.
way, ultimately ripping out
I'm running
mountains
out
of
of
Earth
time.
in the blink of an eye. As currents boiled and liquefied the wet
It might be a
matrix
different
below,
video by him.
similar to the plasma tornadoes that are swirling in the gaps between the electrodes and granite in the film. Second, note the plasma tornadoes that bridge the gap between the block and electrode. They are not in bright arc mode, but are filaments in glow mode. The plasma tornado currents are in the air gap where the air has ionized the plasma. In the arches, there was no air gap between the ionizing wet layer and the overburden, so the discharge was a barrier discharge coming from the boiled mud. The currents flowed around the boiling, bubbling, foaming heat spikes to fuse and harden the less conductive overburden in its pattern of arches and pinnacles. Jim's experiment demonstrates how current diffuses through granite, which demonstrates how ground currents can diffuse in natural rock. Watch towards the end of the clip. Arcing begins in hot spots to eat through the granite, collecting the current into single arcing paths and starving the diffusion currents around them. There are many other
It's not
evidence
this
of
video,
sputtering
damn it.
discharge in the Utah Canyonlands.
That's not the one you wanted?
I guess not.
We'll examine some more.
It's
Thank
the
you.
next one that he did after this. Let's see.
Part two, you want?
Andrew Hall. Hold on, don't. I'll find it. I'll find it. It's another one by
That's
Andrew.
all right. That's all right.
It's another one that Andrew. Capacitance. Conduction, induction, and capacitance. That's the three things to remember. This might be it right here.
What was it? Conduction, induction, and capacitance. There you go.
Yeah. Conduction, induction, and capacitance.
Welcome to Space
I think
News
he's
from the
talked about
Electric
it here.
Universe,
Let's see.
brought to you by the Thunderbolts Project at Thunderbolts.
I think this is the one. It could be that one here. Ring currents. One of the
Today,
two.
author Andrew Hall continues his remarkable series of presentations on the promising new geology the Electric Universe offers. Like every rocky body in our solar system, our planet's landscape demands a radical shift in perception. Standard geological theory, limited to processes such as plate tectonics, wind
Everything
and
is
water
electric.
erosion, volcanism, and
It's amazing.
impacts from space, proves woefully inadequate.
There's only
to
one
explain
power
what we actually
in the
see.
in the universe.
In this first episode of
Electricity.
this new series,
All right.
outlines how the high-energy atmospheric phenomena we see throughout the solar system, which are electromagnetic in nature, provide essential clues to understanding our planet's visible features.
Geology and weather is
It
a
would only make sense that
massive
UFOs run on it.
circuit. Forget anything you've been taught
That's
about.
why they don't. That's why they hide
It's
it.
wrong, provably wrong, from evidence you'll soon see. Geology we are taught to associate with billions of years of tectonic forces is actually the result of capacitor discharge across Earth's crust and atmospheric layers. The Earth's own electric circuit, electroplated, etched, and arced to form the land, patterned by the Earth's electric field. The first evidence of Earth's electric formation is provided by the landscape. All one need do is look at it. In this series of articles, you'll be shown features created by electric winds. The challenge is to believe your eyes, take a serious look at the theory, or to hide in the consensus. The following images are just a teaser. An explanation and even more dramatic evidence will take
Cognitive
explain
dissonance.
several
I
articles.
experience it every day.
First, look at these basin and range mountains and contemplate what caused
The
them.
other.
They look as if a blowtorch blasted the land, don't they? They are coherent flow patterns formed in concentric waves. Exactly what a blowtorch would do. Just look. This is a visual coincidence, according to consensus geology. According to accepted scientific
Consensus geology. That's right.
fluid curves in mountains and basins
That's all it
that
is.
rise and fall in coherent
They're all
fashion
on the same team.
requires a long sequence of unrelated events. First, the rocks have to be made at some depth.
If you have to
miles below the
defend
surface under
your
millions of
theory,
years of heat and pressure.
you're in trouble.
Then the ground has to roll in an unproven act called subduction, which stretches and heaves the land so the rocks come to surface as mountains and deep basins form between. The rocks have to push up by faulting from earthquake. And with this violent upheaval, huge slabs of rock remain largely intact, somehow always ending up in vertical or horizontal shelves or at consistent dip angles. Then much of it has to erode away, sand grain by sand grain, over millions of years of rain and wind.
Man,
Which strangely
can't get comfortable.
sharpens the angles of what remains.
Can't you? Why not?
Nah.
These chaotic
Well, I'm gonna
processes
take a
of
bike
stretching,
ride to the store in a
lifting,
minute.
falling, and
That'll get me
eroding for
moving.
millions of years.
Yeah.
Then
Hey, it'd be after midnight, wouldn't it?
apparent parallel roads
Yeah,
It'd be after midnight for you now, wouldn't it, Greg?
around
It's 12:30.
swirling
Yeah, I
structures.
suppose you'll be like that.
Fractal
I suppose you'll be wanting
Hold
to
on.
have a bit of shadow eye soon.
Hold on a
Makes one
second.
wonder at the
Mark,
marvelous
yeah.
coincidence of it all. How does
Stop.
a
Okay.
Yeah, and it goes red. Now you're recording.
Yes.
We're live.
All right.
Okay, are we okay here?
Yep.
Yes.
What I wanted to talk to you about was the thing about dinosaurs and gravity and a new article which I've seen recently. Okay, and this is a Spanish language article, so that I'm having to use the Google Chrome browser for this, right? Because you know the Google Translate function only works in Chrome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
That's good.
This is the new largest dinosaur. This is what I wanted to show you. Okay. Let me explain the problem.
Love
okay?
dinosaurs.
Yeah, most people like dinosaurs. It's like this would be a very, very big one. This would be 110, 15 feet long.
Yeah.
It would be 180 tons, right?
You know, I wonder what that neck weighs, you know.
This would be like a stomposaur. You wouldn't want to have to hold this guy's neck. The
No.
neck is one of the problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if the center of gravity of that neck is even 10 feet out from the shoulders, you'd be looking at, you know, 500,000, somewhere between 500,000 and 1,000,000 foot-pounds of torque, right? And you'd be looking at trying to hold that much torque, like with structures made of flesh and bone and sinew and all that kind of stuff. You know, there's no building inspector on the face of the earth that could be bribed enough to let you hang something like that, you know, like 40, 50, 60,000 pounds off into space like that, you know, like with no supporting structure. And there's no supporting structure. Yeah. Well, that's just the torque problem. Now, the other problem is weight, right? It's like there's, I've published, you know, a number of different articles on the subject, you know, starting in the mid to late 1980s, right? And at that time, I was the only person on Earth trying to make any kind of a case like that. I mean, I was catching all kinds of grief for it. Okay. It goes like this. There's a limit to the sizes of animals that you can have on the Earth, right? And the limit is based on this idea of a square cube problem. You know, weight is proportional to volume, which is a cubed figure, width times breadth times height. Now, strength is proportional to cross-section of bones and muscles, which is like pi r squared. So that if I go to sleep at night and I'm 6 feet tall, and something weird happens at night, you know, Ming the merciless Mongol or the evil witch of the East does something, and when I wake up in the morning, I'm not 6 feet tall anymore, I'm 12 feet tall, right? Then I've got a factor of 2, which just got figured 3 times for volume and weight, right? Width, breadth, height, each got magnified by a factor of 2. 2, 4, 8. I'm going to be 8 times heavier, okay? Because weight is proportional to volume, whereas strength is only proportional to cross-section of bones and muscles. Cross-section behaves like pi r squared, so that only gets factor of 2 only got figured twice there, not 3 times. I'm only going to be 4 times stronger. It says I'm going to be 8 times heavier and 4 times stronger. I'll have cut my power to weight ratio exactly in half. You understand the problem, right? You can only cut your power to weight ratio in half so many times and still stand up and walk.
Right, right.
Now, what I wanted to do originally in the 1980s was to basically determine a point at which that would cause any creature living on the Earth to collapse, right? You know, what is the biggest number you can get like that? How heavy would somebody have to be? Let's take one of these world's strongest man competitors. one of these people like Bill Kazmaier, or the other guy's name escapes me. It should be on the tip of my tongue. Benedict Magnuson, right? The other guy that you read about. A maximum effort for one of these guys, fully warmed up.
What happened? What happened? I lost you. I lost you guys. What happened?
Hang on, I'm here still, Greg.
Okay, what happened to, is Ted?
I just muted. I just muted. I could see Ted, and then no, he's still there. He's still there, Ted. We seem to have lost you into the abyss.
Yeah, Adusa says he just wants to listen, so I'm gonna give him a call. Just a second. We'll start over. Well, we got something recorded already, but I'll just give him a quick call, and then he's just going to kick back and you can go. Hold on 1 second. Okay, I'm going to call Ted, and I'm going to call Adusa at the same time. Where is he? Where is Adusa? Come on. What is it? Nicholas. That's right. Nicholas, start side. Okay. Boom.
Hello. Got me there, guys?
Hello, Nick.
Hi, Gretch. All right,
Yeah,
bro.
I've got you.
Yeah.
I don't know if Ted's still around. I think Greg will have to call Ted back.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a low profile to me, Gretch, tonight, because I didn't get no kip last night. I loved it. I loved last night, but I didn't get any kip. I need some tonight. But I'm going to listen to you guys have a nice chat tonight, and
Greg,
Oh, goody. Okay. All right, go back and share your screen, and let's get right back into it. You were into the gravity.
okay, I'm sorry, what happened?
I don't know. We got cut off. We're back now. Everybody's here.
Okay.
Something goofy happened. I don't even know what it is. All right, go ahead. Give us your screen again, and let's get going.
Start sharing.
Yeah. It was going good, too, but we'll just get right back on.
Okay.
Nick is with us. That's a dude.
Since I had a real haircut.
Yeah, me too.
This is because
That's all right, Ted.
Yeah, I cut my own hair, and it looks like it.
Yeah, the same set. I'm in the same boat. Look, it's like,
Who wants to pay $20 for a haircut?
no, it's not a question of money. They want people wearing masks in those places.
Oh, I know. Yeah, screw that. I just use the number 3 on my buzzer.
Okay.
Right now, I'm a hippie.
You guys see my little picture of the dinosaur?
Yeah. I
Okay.
look like you guys. Go ahead.
Did you get as far as me talking about 2/3 power of weight?
You said, yeah, pi r squared. That's the last thing I heard you say.
Okay. Let's take it from that point. What I was saying was that, the weight is proportional to volume, which the cube figure was, strength is proportional to cross section, of bones and muscles. Right now, that behaves like pi r squared. If I go to sleep at night and I'm 6 feet tall, and I wake up in the morning, I'm 12 feet tall. Just my dimensions just got doubled, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I've got a factor of 2 that's going to get figured 3 times for volume and weight, width, breadth, height, 2, 4, 8. I'm going to be 8 times heavier.
Right.
So I'm only going to be 4 times stronger. You see, it's like that factor of 2 only gets squared for cross section. Okay, so that I've just cut my power to weight ratio in half. And, there's going to be a point at which you know, any kind of an animal becomes dysfunctional. If it keeps on getting bigger, right, it's going to become dysfunctional because of the square cube problem. You know, every time, in other words, you know, animals get, you know, they lose this power to weight ratio as they get bigger no matter what they do, right? I mean, you know, you can see the problem. You don't get 200-pound gymnasts, right? I mean, the largest gymnast, I think for women, the limit's about 90 pounds, 100 pounds, right? For men, 145, 150 pounds.
Yeah, in grade school, it was always the scrawny kid that could do the most chin-ups.
He could do the most of any ratio exercise like that was working against his own body. It was always the littlest kid in the school.
Yeah.
To do the most pull-ups and the most push-ups, right? You remember that.
Mm-hmm.
This is the same thing right now. For weightlifting events, you scale the lifting events by the 2/3 power of weight to determine who amongst the champions of the different weight divisions has really done the best overall lift, right? Now, 2/3 power of weight is like a general average of cross-section, which is what you want for a scaling factor. Okay.
Which is why, yeah.
Right.
Which is why I would think that elephants are the heaviest creatures and they really can't get much bigger.
No, they can't. You know, in fact, the mathematical limit is about 20,000 pounds. It's like the real world limit. The biggest elephant is about 14, 15, 16,000 pounds, and that's like 1% of elephants, right? So,
Do elephants ever lay down?
not very long. In other words, they would do damage to the tissues, right?
Yeah.
If an elephant will lay down on its side, any length of time, it will have an hour. I don't think they do.
I have no
They could
idea
probably
where
sleep
all that
without
noise
standing
is
up.
coming from.
Don't horses sleep standing up?
Yeah, mostly, of course, cows. You've heard of cow tipping? You know what that is?
Yes.
I mean,
I
certainly
used to think it was wives' tale. It's true.
Oh, no. No, they do that. They go out in the cow pasture and find some
Sounds
cow
like
lying there,
somebody's
or
eating
standing there
lettuce.
asleep, and see if they can just push her over.
Cows lie down.
You know, cows
lie
shit.
down.
Cows shit when they run. That's where the term shitting and getting came from.
Yeah, at any rate,
It's funny.
Yeah, said cattle lie down, but you got to think they are different to the others in that they have the double system. So they have traditionally your cattle type animals have a feed and then lay down and re-chew it and all that. So yeah, cattle actually spend a lot of time laying on the ground.
okay, at any rate,
And they're cut. Yeah.
it's like if you take, you know, weight is like a cubed figure, right? So that if you take weight and take a cube root of a person's weight, then what that amounts to is like a sort of a general notion of dimensionality. And then if you square that, then you've got a general notion of cross section, right? So that says you take a cube root and then square. That's 2/3 power of weight, right? And that's your general notion of, or your general average of cross section. Now, the way that they normally scale these lifting events is by 2/3, you know, just by dividing an athlete's weight by 2/3 power of weight, right? So that if you've gotten as far as we're talking about Benedict Magnuson or Bill Kazmaier, right? And for one of these guys, a maximum fully warmed up, go for the gold, one-shot lift is going to be a deadlift squat. Well, something somewhere right around 1,000 pounds on a bar. Like Magnuson is.
Guys, mute your mics.
I'm sorry?
I was talking to the other two. Mute your mics. I can hear things.
Oh, fucking me. So,
It's okay. It's all right. If you got to
Yes,
unmute.
I have my mic muted in between.
Yeah.
Okay.
Me too, usually. Go ahead. Go ahead, Ted. You're on a roll.
So what you would really, you know, I want to solve the point at which for Bill Kazmaier, it's going to be the same level of effort just to stand up as it would be to do that 1,000-pound squat or deadlift at his normal weight of 350 pounds right now. Bill Kazmaier, I say 350 pounds, that's without any fat or extra weight, right? I mean, he's solidly built at that weight, 6'5", something like that. Yeah, what you do is you take the bar plus, the bar's 1,000 pounds plus 350 for Kazmaier, right? And then divide that by the 2/3 power of 350. The 1,350 divided by the 2/3 power of 350 equals, and then on the right side of the equation, just got the guy standing up, just lifting his own weight off the ground, x divided by the 2/3 power of x. Solve for x, right? You get a number, depending on which athlete you use and a couple of other things like that, you get a number between 18 and 20,000 pounds. That's the theoretical limit for the world, okay? In our world today, nothing any heavier than 20,000 pounds can stand up and get his own weight off the ground. Now, if you put Bill Kazmaier next to a brachiosaur, any kind of a 4-footed herbivore, quadrupedal herbivore, right? It's like, but the basic idea is like, let's talk about Bill Kazmaier compared to a brachiosaur. If you look at, at the same sizes, then what you're seeing in that comparison is like one animal pretty near the top of the food chain, which is Kazmaier, whose body is 90% bone and muscle, who uses food to flavor his anabolic steroids with, pretty much, right? And then the other animal is pretty near the bottom of the food chain. You've got this brachiosaur, his body is most of his weight is going to be like, the digestive system to process leaves and grass, the gut and the rest of the digestive system, to process all of these low-value foods. So what I'm saying is there's no way in the world that a brachiosaur is going to be stronger than somebody like Bill Kazmaier at the same weight, the same size, right? So in other words, if Bill Kazmaier couldn't make it past 20,000 pounds in our world, well, then the brachiosaur sure as hell couldn't. And this got everybody freaked out. So he caught all kinds of flack for this on Usenet, and the question is why, right? Well, I mean, it makes a shambles out of everything Albert Einstein tried to say about gravity. Albert Einstein tried to claim that gravity was some kind of a 4-dimensional differential geometry thing, and you cannot start with that and believe that it ever could have changed 3 to 1 or 4 or 5 or 6 to 1 within the last, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60,000 years, right? You understand the problem, right? Whereas it's an easy demonstration, and it has.
Of course, yes.
And one of this is getting towards my guy from Patagonia here, or, Argentina. You still got this picture, right, where you're seeing the dinosaur? Greg?
Yes.
Okay.
Listening.
Yeah, you see, it was like one of the things that I mentioned in the book, in Cosmos and Collision, and which I mentioned in previous articles, was the ultrasaur, right? And the ultrasaur, like in the late 80s, was probably the biggest, the heaviest known dinosaur. Now, Christopher McGowan, the curator of paleontology at the Royal Ontario Museum, had said that the ultrasaur was somewhere around 100 feet long, and that just using volumetric comparisons with other known sauropod dinosaurs, he assumed that the ultrasaur weighed somewhere around 180 tons. Now, he caught all kinds of grief for that and was forced to revise those figures down. This is after he'd published this in a book, right? The book, I think, was called Dinosaurs, Spitfires, and Sea Dragons.
Yeah, God forbid he doesn't stay within the talking point.
Yeah. At any rate, so he was forced to revise that number down. And this is the thing that was funny originally, because, you've got all these academic types who assume that, oh, gee, we've got a problem if anybody wants to believe that this dinosaur weighed 180 tons, but maybe if we can talk him down to 70,000, or 60,000, something like that, well, then everything will be copacetic and cool.
180,000 tons. Wow.
No, I said 180 tons, not thousand.
Oh, okay.
Even that, like the 180 tons is I hope I didn't say 180,000 tons. That would be a large...
No, you said 180. It was my fault.
Okay. No, but he said like 180 tons, right? And then they forced him to degrade that number, right? And I started seeing numbers like 70,000 pounds or 70 tons, you know, like for the ultrasound and other kinds of books and publications after that, right? Everybody said, okay, let's just go with the lighter number. Then we don't have all these problems with Albert Einstein. But you see, most of them were probably unaware of my study at the time, right? So, you know, so I had everybody on Usenet saying, well, you know, Holden's a goofball, right? It's like he didn't know that, you know, you got all these experts now that think ultrasound only weighed 70 tons, right? There's no problem, right? Well, then here, this is the thing that's, okay, that was funny enough, you know, because like I said, there's these guys, you know, and I made sure that Magellan was aware, ultimately, of my own little study, right?
What did you think of it?
I'm sorry?
Did you get a reaction from him?
I can't remember. It's been so long ago, but like what you're seeing here is a new fossil find in Argentina could take the title of the largest beast that's ever walked the face of the earth. The race to find the largest animals always walked, you know, that's ever walked the Earth's surface dates back 200 years. You know, people trying to outdo each other at museums, right?
Mm-hmm.
They call the largest dinosaurs Titanosaurs, right?
Argentinosaur?
Yeah, that's one that I've heard of, right? There seem to have been a couple in between that I really hadn't kept up with it.
Yeah, I like the spined one that, you know, was bigger than T-Rex. It had the sail on its back. What, Spinosaurus or something?
Right.
Yeah, those are pretty cool.
Yeah, the collection of fossil remains found in the province of Nequén or whatever, located in Patagonia. After a certain time of observation, the scientists in charge of the study determined it belonged to a sauropod family, same to which Patagotitan belongs, right? And I hadn't heard of the Patagotitan previously. This is characterized by remarkably long necks and tails with pillar-shaped legs, so this gets better. But unlike its congeners, this new species of Titanosaur reached about 33.5 meters, you know, 100, with an average, the key word here, average, with an average weight of 173 tons, which puts him right into the ballpark, you know, that Christopher Magellan was talking about originally. Mm-hmm. Star. On average, that's just a big one, who knows, maybe 200 tons. It received its name in honor of the powerful deities of Greek mythology, wanted to storm Olympus in ancient times. At any rate, This was the thing that I wanted to show you about dinosaurs. You've got a new dinosaur now, which apparently on average would be like 180 tons, right? And that just says that the whole situation for anybody that wanted to think, you know, the dinosaurs were much smaller than that, is like his situation is FUBAR.
Yeah, and you were telling me once about the dinosaurs that were the last ones were called water panthers or something for a while. I have a nice engraving image of one.
Yeah, that's the stegosaur. Okay.
Stegosaur, yeah.
That's what the Indians called Mishi Pishu.
Mishi Pishu, yeah.
Mishi Pishu is similar to the word Mississippi. Okay.
Mm-hmm. In Michigan.
So you've got those. You've got good representations of those things on canyon walls.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got Vandaluria, who died before I moved to Texas. Right now,
Yeah.
Mandalorian was, the best known of all Native American authors. Right? He has several books which are standard textbooks on Indian affairs. Custer Died for Your Sins, right?
Yeah.
And he's got a book which is called Red Earth, White Lies, which talks about the megafauna die out like 12, 14 years ago. And his book is, that book is, 90% of the book is an argument against the attempts to blame megafauna die out on Indian ancestors. What they call an overkill or
I
extreme
truly
overkill
apologize for all
hypothesis.
that
They're
interference. I
assuming
have
that
no
Indian
idea where it
ancestors
came
somehow
from.
or other killed out all these large animals over the entire North American continent. Right now, in order to do something like that, you would need two things. You would need firepower and mobility way beyond anything that Indian ancestors ever had. Right? You might could wipe out all the mammoths like in one little part of Alaska or Canada, but you wouldn't wipe them all out all over North America, right? That would just be impossible. Now, there's one chapter in this book, again, it's called Red Earth, White Lies, which talks about dinosaurs, and talks about Mishi Pishu in particular, the Stegosaur, right? He said that Indian oral traditions describe the Stegosaur as having red fur, a saw-blade back, a cat-like face, and a spiked tail, which uses, in fact, what is called a great spiked tail. The only thing that ever walked the earth that looks like that was the Stegosaur. Right? I mean, that's a perfect description of a Stegosaur.
I have a nice depiction that was taken in a cave that was done. Real good rendition of it.
Yeah.
I'll show it in this video.
An interesting kettle of fish.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there was another thing. This is the thing I wanted to run by about dinosaurs. It's just this new. There's a new dinosaur that you're seeing in the Spanish Science Journal article.
Mm-hmm.
This just looks like a killer. I mean, this. I don't think you'd have to worry about Tyrannosaur picking on you or anything like that.
Right. Yeah.
I think this
maybe the baby.
I think this guy could probably just grab a Tyrannosaur around by the scruff of the neck and just,
Yeah. What would he fight with? His front feet? I don't know. Maybe his neck.
Just grab him with his teeth.
They got little teeth, don't they?
Wouldn't matter. He's got enough of them.
Yeah, that's true.
And just take a look at the picture. It's like, the Tyrannosaur would fit inside this guy's mouth.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that they were that small. I thought they were like 40 feet.
I mean, a Tyrannosaur is not a small animal. It's about the size of a very large elephant, right? But I mean, the picture of the biggest elephant you ever saw hopping around on two legs and having sharp teeth, that's a Tyrannosaur.
Right, yeah.
Probably had feathers, right? It's just a big chicken with sharp teeth.
Yeah.
That was one of the things I wanted to show. This would make, I figured like maybe a 10 or 15 minute or 20 minute take. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Got enough to work with here.
Yeah.
Right. And like I said, the funny thing was that the funny thing involves the people who were trying to force the sizes for the Ultrasaur.
Ah, okay.
You see what I mean? This says that even an average one of these things is going to be as big as Christopher Magellan was saying that the Ultrasaur was, just based on a maximal figure.
So what you're saying is the gravity not only changed, but it wasn't even close to what it is today.
That's correct. It would have to be at least a 3-to-1 change in order for this guy to walk. In order for the Ultrasaur to walk as easily as the largest elephant walks, but it was probably more than that. It was probably 3-to-1 would be the minimum that you would have to have, even in theory. Mm-hmm. But it's probably substantially more than that, and it may have depended on where on Earth you were standing.
What is your point of view on how long they've been extinct? I've heard they've gotten some carbon dating as little as 4,000 years ago.
Okay, I would suspect that, you see, it was like,
If they still have blood vessels, I mean, that's pretty current. You know, it can't be that old.
they've gotten radiocarbon dating for some of the soft tissues that they've been finding, like in dinosaur remains, right? And those, the way I read it, those radiocarbon dating, 40,000 pounds.
Yeah, you cut out there. Can you
40,000 years, I'm sorry, not pounds, years.
40,000 years?
40,000 years, I would say, is probably an outside figure. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the case of the Stegosaur, I think you probably had those 3,000 or 4,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. There's another little point of information here, which says that Lewis and Clark said that their native guides were in mortal terror at the sight of these glyphs. You know, the Michi Pichu glyphs around the Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because the original meaning of the thing was caution, one of these things lives here.
Okay.
Right? And here's what I believe happened. I mean, Stegosaur was not the biggest dinosaur. You know, he would have suffered when gravity changed. You have this change in gravity. And he probably tried to move into water to deal with the change in weight, right? But he didn't have any real adaptation for living in water, you know. And he didn't make it, right? You don't still find any stegosaurs in the Mississippi River.
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, whenever you did have stegosaurs, it was recently enough, the memory was still fresh, right? That you still had these native guides who were terrified at the sight of these petroglyphs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's basically what you're dealing with. Now, when you want to talk about sauropod dinosaurs, I don't know, you know, 10, 20, 30, 40,000 years ago.
It wasn't no millions of years ago.
No, not millions of years at all.
I don't think so.
And here's what I tell people. They ask me, how old is the Earth, right? And what I tell them is that, like, every one of these systems that they use to try to come up with 4 billion year dates that you read about.
Right.
You know, the first thing you have to understand is the people that are telling you that the Earth is 4 billion years old are the same people that tell you the dinosaurs died out 65 million years ago.
Same people that tell you about Darwinism, and same people that tell you about uniformity. Yeah.
Right. So
they all need each other.
Here's what I'll tell them. The only thing, you know, you don't have any these. You know, the schemes that they use, you know, these isotope dating methods that they use to try to put numbers on the age of the Earth are all based on certain kinds of assumptions, which all go out the window the first time you allow for a major cosmic disaster like the flood or this thing which supposedly happened when you have the final capture of the southern system, right? You've got these 4 bodies with the 26-degree axis tilts. That's Saturn, Neptune, Mars, and Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, these things had to have been captured as a group, right? And this was like 14, 15, 10, 12, somewhere back 10, 12, 15,000 years ago, mm-hmm. right? But it's not that long ago, right? Any rate.
So did you want to go into other areas tonight, or did you just want this to be a short video on gravity?
There's something else I wanted to talk about.
We
all got into it just a moment ago.
Okay.
Right.
We got all, no problem. We got all the time we want.
These pictures of Saturn, Neptune, Mars, and Earth.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I went into that with you earlier, mm-hmm. right? Okay, this is a place where the Thunderbolts.
I don't think so. Let's see what you got.
This is a place where the Thunderbolts group may have screwed up. Right, we were talking about the age of the Earth. You mind if I say?
No, go ahead. No, take your time. Yeah.
How old is the Earth? Right. People ask me that, and I say, look, you don't have any real way of knowing. It's like the best you can do is try to come up with the best possible educated guess.
Right.
And the best I can do for anybody is to show them what I consider to be an educated guess. And the educated guess is going to depend on 2 assumptions, both of which I think are halfway reasonable. One of the assumptions is that this 40,000 year figure which you've just heard me talk about, is an outside figure for dinosaurs. Okay, I'm assuming that the main age of dinosaurs was no more than about 40, 50,000 years ago. Okay, that's one assumption. The other assumption is that the geologists, the standard geologists, have at least come somewhere close to getting their ratios correct. That doesn't say that the numbers are correct, right, or that the Earth is really the Earth is really 4 billion years old. It just says that the ratio, the time ratios that they use for judging these supposed ages of the Earth that you read about in geology books are somewhere close to being ballpark right now. If you make these two assumptions, then you can start off with this standard little 24-hour clock model, which says that if you view the entire history of the Earth as 24 hours, then dinosaurs appear somewhere right around 10:40 p.m.
Okay.
You've heard that, right?
Yes, I have.
Now, what you can do is you can take this 40,000 year figure and you can plug that into the 24-hour clock model, and what you get is a number around 700,000, right? And that says that my starting assumption would be my first basic guess as to the age of the Earth, like somewhere around 700,000 years. I mean, that to me gives the Earth time to have cooled off. The idea that dinosaurs appearing like maybe 40,000 years ago. I mean, that's all seems to be sort of believable, right? Mm-hmm. And then I would say, okay, like just for fun, let's multiply that number by 5 or 10, right? Just to give the evil losers every possible shot at it, right? Well, that says, evolutionites, right, or evil losers, that says that, somewhere between 700,000 and 7 million years, it's probably, I would say, probably a hell of a good guess. That's your basic educated scientific guess as to how old the Earth is. Does that make sense?
Yes, Ted, it does.
Okay, that would be the best answer I could give anybody as to how old the Earth is. That says that just with the best information that we have available to us, the best educated guess you could come up with would be somewhere around, a few 100,000 to a few million years, but almost certainly more than 10 million.
No more than 10 million. Right.
Yeah, okay. And that is nowhere near the amount of time that you would need for any version of evolution.
Yeah, one thing that people might not take into consideration is, they look at all the strata of the Earth, and how matter comes to rest. And a lot of that came from our first star, that matter is ejected like that.
Yeah.
In strata lines.
Right. The first star means Saturn.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, that's what Walt Thornhill claims. That's where our stratus came from.
Yeah, I've got something that has finally dawned on me, which I should have figured out 10 years ago. But the two, that like for this book that I've worked on, the Ganymede hypothesis.
Yeah, it's a good book, by the way.
You've had a look at the new book now?
No, I have not yet. I'm going to, though. Yeah, we'll check it out for sure.
The new book is better organized, easier to read, right? And it's got newer material. It's like it's a more interesting book.
Yeah, I did a chapter out of the book. It's got like 35,000 views.
Yeah. Okay. Let me put this thing down here and try to figure a place to start. Right. This was, let me leave that open, right? I don't really need that. Let me go over here, say, and just run Okay, what am I looking at here? This is an email that I sent to Walt Thornhill and to Ev Cochran, to David Talbot, and a couple of other people, right? Don Scott. And
It's put together well.
okay, the new book is substantially better organized than the earlier book. The new book is called Ganymede Hypothesis, which is what I originally wanted for a title for the thing. It flows better, it's easier to read, contains updated material, a number of better images. Okay, this is one of...
It's more intriguing, too.
Yeah, this is one of Ryan Darger's images. Okay, the Ganymede Hypothesis, and you can see these guys are sitting here on Ganymede. There may be a problem with this red spot on Jupiter, and that may really be only a few hundred years old or 1,000 years old. It might not have been there when people were living on Ganymede, in other words. Nonetheless,
okay.
This is what I said, and then this is the mistake that I think they may have made. Okay, comparison of artwork and iconography from different parts of the ancient Near East have convinced scholars following in the footsteps of Immanuel Velikovsky that the Earth was recently part of a linear cosmic alignment involving Saturn, Mars, Earth, and another body, the identity of which involves a bit of a controversy. And I can tell you right now that Troy didn't like hearing this, and F. Cochran doesn't like hearing this. But I'm going to have to stick with it. You know, a math major in college, like math majors, basically tend to favor logic. You know, when there's a problem between logic and some other reason for thinking something that's like, you get the idea, right? This is the Egyptian Shen bond clasp. You've got like a golden outer rim, or red gold outer rim, then you've got this blue thing here, then you've got red. Okay, and this is this cosmic alignment, right? The golden outer rim of the object represents Saturn, the red object is Mars, the blue object has been assumed by the scholars involved with the Thunderbolts project and the Thunderbolts info website to be Venus. They are assuming that Immanuel Velikovsky's claim of Venus having been created via electrical fissioning from Jupiter was an error. That is, that Venus originated with Saturn and not Jupiter. Okay? You've got other kinds of images and iconography from the ancient Near East, right? This is a Shamanic glyph, which you see on the right. And this is what these guys are assuming. They're correct in this. It's like this is almost certainly what the Shamanic glyph represents. Likewise, the common Near East Shamanic glyph, the Thunderbolts group, from a massive study of and cross-referencing of ancient artwork, is convinced that the ancient Saturnian alignment, at least in the recent past, like last 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 years. Right? You understand that this Book of Mind deals mainly with the last 60,000 years. Okay, the Ganymede hypothesis is interested in time back before, thunderbolts or symbols of an alien sky or any of these works, the Saturn myth or any of these works of David Talbot's or Ev Cochran's or Eduardo Cardona's, right? But nonetheless, it's not like I don't ever notice, I'm not interested in this stuff from 4,000 years ago or 6,000 years ago. The Thunderbolts group, okay, is convinced that the ancient Saturnian alignments in the recent past look like this. But there's a problem. There's several problems. Problems with the identification of the blue body as Venus. And, I said that the two main keys to my work and Troy McLaughlin's work are axis tilts and eye sizes. Sizes of the eyes of the creatures from the southern system, the axis tilts of the southern system, right? You've got, in our solar system, you don't have the situation you would expect. The situation you would expect would have the spin axes of all of the bodies should be roughly perpendicular to the plane of the system. Axis tilt should be 0 on average, okay? That's not what we find. You've got, you've got several bodies which have a, axis tilt's less than 10 degrees. You've got, the sun, which is around, I don't know, 8, 9 degrees, something like that. You've got Jupiter and Venus. You've got Jupiter, right, which is about 3 degrees. You've got Mercury, and then you've got like anything, I don't know, it's like that's the one system, that's your northern system, right? You've got Uranus, right, which has an axis tilt which is off at a 90-degree angle, right? It's got its own special little story. And the thing which kept me from seeing this originally was that, I didn't take a hard enough look, right? The axis tilt of Venus was always given as 177 degrees, right? So I figured, well, that was another case of some kind of body with its own story or something, What I didn't notice and should have was that, like, Jupiter and Venus both have the same axis tilt, okay? It's like roughly 3 degrees off of being perpendicular to the system, to the plane of the system, right? And they've changed the way, I figured this out before I checked on Wikipedia again, but recently I checked on Wiki again, and they've changed the way that they describe that they say now that, like, Venus axis tilt is either 170 degrees or 3 degrees, depending on whether you take notice of the retrograde spin, right? Depending as to whether you want to include the retrograde spin in the calculation. Now, Neptune has problems with identification of the blue body as Venus. Neptune has the right axis tilt, the 28.32 degrees, to have been part of the ancient Saturnian system alignment. The axis tilts of the outer planets were not known in the late 70s and early 80s when David Talbot, F. Cochran, and others were putting the Thunderbolts vision of the Saturn theory together. Now, this is a reasonable excuse for them, right? I mean, in 1980, nobody knew what the axis tilt of these outer bodies was. I mean, they picked that up when you have these Voyager flybys, like of Neptune and Uranus, like in 88 or 89, whatever that was, right? So that these guys, the people with the Thunderbolts group, didn't know about this. They did not have this piece of information. Venus' axis tilt is variously given as 177.3 or 2.64 degrees, depending on whether the writer wants to take the retrograde spin into account. Either way, that is not compatible with Venus ever having been part of the ancient Saturn alignment.
Only got one problem with it, and that is that its axis tilt of Neptune is 29 degrees. It's the furthest one, which wouldn't it be indicative of it being on the outside? How could it be tilted more, 2 degrees more, and be on the inside? Is it possible? I mean, I suppose it's possible, but it would just seem to reason that it would be.
The reason the axis tilt's being, I say
because it's like the Earth, and then Mars is 24 or something, then Saturn's 26 something, and then you got Neptune, which is 29.
Greg, here's what I tell people, that basically, the bodies of the Saturnian system all have the same, roughly, the word roughly is key here, roughly 26-degree axis tilts, right? Okay, so the 24 and 28, both roughly 26. Okay.
It could have been moved in the duration of the catastrophe.
Here's what happened. You had, the question comes up, why do you have these bodies, what is it about being captured as a group? The fact that these bodies all have roughly the same axis tilt says they had to have been captured as a group. What is it about being captured as a group that's going to give you the same axis tilt? Well, here's what happened. These things were not originally an orbiting system. They were linearly aligned system, you know, this linear alignment left over from the original Herbig-Haro string, you know, which comprised our system, you still have that part of it, which still have this linear alignment. It flew, this linear aligned system flew into the plane of the Sun-Jupiter system from the south at a 26-degree angle, more or less, and that the individual bodies peeled out and began to orbit the way that they do now. Ordinary gyroscopic force caused them to keep this 26-degree angle of approach in the form of axis tilts. Okay, that's the basic idea. Make sense?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay. Venus's axis tilts variously given as 177.3 or 64 or 2.64 degrees, depending on whether the writer wants to take the retrograde spin into account. Either way, that's not compatible with Venus ever having been part of the ancient Saturn alignment. Jupiter's axis tilt is given as 3.13, less than half a degree from that of Venus. Both are basically 3 degrees off of being perpendicular to the plane of the system. That appears to be a huge argument in favor of Velikovsky's original claim. This is what I'm claiming now. I'm claiming that it's, you know, I view it as most likely. I view it as most likely that the Thunderbolts group is wrong about this. Okay, the Thunderbolts group. Okay, there's another piece of this thing. But the Thunderbolts group's claim requires believing that Immanuel Velikovsky, probably the most careful scholar that any of us have ever been associated with, had made a very large mistake, and it isn't as if this was some kind of an afterthought. Velikovsky claimed to have put a great deal of thought into the question of where, you know, which of these dwarf stars Venus had come from. And it goes on for a sizable number of pages in Worlds in Collision, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, there's another killer here. Okay, so I don't have an easy time believing that Velikovsky would have made a mistake that big. And I'm sorry.
They do distance themselves from him somewhat in Thunderbolts of the Gods.
Now, here we go. Having Venus spin off from the equatorial region of Jupiter neatly explains the present retrograde spin. Think gears, right? And near zero axis tilt. Okay, those are big anomalies that Venus is thought to derive from Saturn. You understand what I'm saying? It's like, you know, you get this body being ejected from the equatorial region of Jupiter. Of course, that's going to cause it to spin the other way.
And leaves the red spot?
I don't know about leaving the red spot, but it will cause it to spin the other way, right?
It's just about the size of Venus. I'm just saying, maybe a coincidence,
yeah, okay. But no, you understand what I'm saying about gears, right? I mean, this is exactly what happens. You have gears meshing, right? I mean, the one goes one way, the other goes the other.
It gives it a kick.
Yeah. So that you got this kick. It's not much of a kick, right? But it's like as it came off of the ejection from Jupiter.
And it has slowed down. It's, you know, maybe it's going to reverse eventually.
It might.
It spins really slow too.
Right. Now, I mean, all of this stuff to me makes for a very big argument in favor of regarding this blue body in the picture as Neptune and not Venus, right?
Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
Which part of this would I tend to go to the wall for the other, right? It's possible somebody might could convince me that the blue body had to be something other than Neptune. I mean, all they would have to do is to show me something which fits the picture better. But I don't see anything like that anywhere.
Well, you're right about that.
Okay.
Because the blue body is big.
Yeah. Okay. Now look. Yeah. Well, a funny thing. Look, it's like you go back to that original little picture of the of this Egyptian Shenbond clasp, and there isn't that much difference in size between Saturn. So you barely see Saturn in this picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you see it, and then you've got this blue body, which is nearly the same size. Now,
And then Mars.
if the blue body was back away from Saturn, then you would figure you wouldn't see Saturn, right? But the normal situation in our galaxy is for dwarf stars, for dwarf stars that orbit, main sequence stars like our sun. Well, they call them hot Jupiters, right? In other words, you would expect them to be up close, right? And if Neptune had been up close like that, then you would expect them to be nearly the same size, okay? And then you've got Mars, and you've got the person seeing all this on Earth, right?
So Neptune, in your case, Neptune would have been the closest planet to the star Saturn.
Yeah.
And Earth would have been the furthest away.
I'm saying that I don't have a time machine. It's like I've asked Santa Claus for one several times.
Yeah. I would love that.
Yeah, I don't have any way of absolutely verifying this stuff. This is,
of course, it's just all good surmising.
Yeah.
With certain
yeah, but
it's fun.
That's very heavily that the blue body in that picture is Neptune and not Venus.
Okay. Yeah.
That's,
because of that shin bund, or are there other pictures or reliefs that depict a larger blue body?
no,
I found one actually from a little place in Ireland. I'll have to send you that picture. It's pretty interesting.
sounds like it would be.
I'm gonna put it. I'm gonna send it in chat.
One last little thing that I mentioned as an argument. There's a question of time in the picture. Ancient accounts describe Venus, or Athena, causing problems shortly after its creation. That would not be the case if Venus had spent hundreds or thousands of years in a Saturnian alignment. See, I don't see how you could start with Venus in the Saturnian alignment and then end up with it having the same axis tilt as Jupiter, right? And I don't see how you could get it. I don't see how you could go either way. I don't see how you could do that, or I don't see how you could start it erupting from Jupiter and then have it end up in the Saturnian alignment. The Saturnian alignment that you're seeing here didn't last very long, right? I mean, this is the golden age, right? You're looking at 2,000-3,000 years at the most, 4,000, I don't know, but it's like not in a huge span of time. Okay, so you've got this problem with time. There are arguments to be made for the case for the blue body in the ancient artwork having been Venus. Remember, this is an email to several people in the Thunderbolts group. Nonetheless, the questions involving axis tilts and fire Occam's logical principle appear to be decisive, and this work is written as if Venus arose within the Sun-Jupiter system, as Velikovsky claimed, and the blue body in the ancient artwork and iconography was Neptune. Okay. I don't own the time machine. I need to be 100% certain of this, but it's about as close as it gets to that. The verbiage notes that this book is written as if, and not I'm absolutely certain that, but I had to make a choice. Right? Trying to write about the Saturnian system is awkward and clumsy otherwise. We have Jupiter and Venus with axis tilts less than half a degree apart. Venus with reverse spin that expulsion from the equatorial region of Jupiter predicts, and another body, Neptune, with the correct axis tilt to have been part of the Saturnian system. That strikes me as incompatible with the idea of Venus ever having been part of the Saturnian system. And I don't see how that could be overridden or trumped by any interpretation of myths or ancient literature. Okay. So what I would suggest is that you guys might want to take a look at this with a view towards seeing if your own theories would be improved by taking the Neptune question into account. That's as polite as I know how to describe all this.
Well, I mean, people always have a difference of opinion. It's
put a lot of work into the theory.
Not personal.
These guys have put a lot of work into the theory, the way that it stands, and it's a magnificent body of work, right? They've done a hell of a job, right? But all I'm saying is, I wouldn't want to leave a mistake like this one lying around.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, this was the other thing I meant to show you.
We can just say, okay, that exists. It's either this or that, and then we can just move forward. We don't have to make it, a big controversy, because it really isn't. It's just a matter of opinion.
Typical. I mean, standard science hasn't gotten as far as the Saturn.
Oh, I know. It's heresy to standard science.
Now, I would assume that somewhere, and I'm not going to be here to deal with it, I would assume that somewhere within the next 30, 40 years, right, so before we get to 2050, that like some version of a Saturn myth will be accepted, will be standard.
You absolutely think so. There's so much evidence for it, it's ridiculous.
Right. It's unavoidable. You can only put it off so long, right? It's like, at some point, the old guard all dies of old age, right? And
right. I've been studying it for 5 years. I haven't found one contradictory fact that says no, yet.
You do a hell of a job. I mean, I couldn't begin to keep up with your schedule. It's like...
No. Yeah, I've been pretty busy, that's for sure.
I mean, that's unbelievable. I mean, you've done as much as anybody to put the Saturn myth on the map.
Yeah, I just love it. I just love the Saturn theory. It feels true to me. It's it's one of the first things that I've ever known in science that feels true. As woo-woo as that sounds, people connect with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, these are two things which are like a little bit new in the new version of the book. I mean, one having to do with the
one thing that gives me there's a lot of things that give your theory, your hypothesis, I guess, a lot of favor with me, and that is, well, even John Cook agrees that one time Jupiter was three-fourths of an AU from the Sun. So that argues that Ganymede, which has a magnetosphere, oxygen, and water, could have harbored life. And then there's the fact that humans could not have lived with all those meat-eating carnivores that were roaming around on the Earth in the dark.
Yeah.
I mean, how could they exist, naked with nothing? They would have to have weapons and,
Well, they had a weapon, right? And they had a good one. They had a good one, right? And they had several good ones, really.
Right. Yeah, for killing fish.
Yeah, they had the Atlatl, which was the world's first real projectile weapon. The first weapon you could stand off 50, maybe even 50 yards away and kill something with, right? I mean, I don't know how good those guys were with them.
Well, they probably were great.
They were using it as a fishing weapon on Ganymede. The same way Australians use it out there in the littoral areas, in Australia, right? Now, when they found out that they had to deal with dangerous animals, particularly the Neanderthal and other hominids, well, they just took the fishing points off, and they said, okay, let's put some more serious points on these Atlatl darts, right?
Yeah.
And what else do they have going for them as compared to Neanderthals, right? So the Neanderthal was an apex predator.
Yep.
And predators have their
big eyes.
They have their own system of population dynamics, right? It's unlikely that there were ever more than about 15 or 20,000 Neanderthals walking around on the Earth at one time. Right. Okay. It's like in the savannas out there in Africa, right? You don't ever get any huge number of lions walking around. You get these giant herds of prey animals. You get these herds of wildebeest and Cape buffaloes, God knows what, right? It's just thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of them. Okay, but you don't ever get that many predators, right?
Yeah.
Whereas humans have prey animal population dynamics, right? Humans were always going to outnumber Neanderthals. Now, there's another thing which,
One thing that is kind of weird about us humans is our eyes are meant to see underwater.
yeah, no, we're aquatic mammals. Make no mistake. I mean, that's basic reality of humans is that we're aquatic mammals. It's like we have voluntary control over breathing, which is an aquatic trait, which allows us to use spoken languages the way that we do. We have the motion to throw overhand, right? The motion to throw overhand is the exact same as the normal human swimming motion.
Right.
Okay? Monkeys and apes can't do that, and there's no reason to believe that a Neanderthal could have. You know, whenever you watch a chimpanzee throw something, it's always like throwing a frisbee, right? It's
Right, yeah. They just fling it, like fling poo.
Right. Yeah. Now, if you had, like, suppose you had a Neanderthal standing there, you know, with a rock in his hand.
Yeah.
And you had Mariano Rivera standing there.
Yeah.
Who do you think's going to win?
Well, if Rivera's got good enough ammunition, of course, the range would win. The ranged weapon. Yeah.
No, I mean, it's not even a question of a ranged weapon. I mean, Mariano Rivera's got that split fastball.
Right. He threw a cutter.
Yeah, that cut fastball. Yeah, which is
it broke right when the ball got to the plate.
97 miles an hour, right? And I mean, you know,
Hall of Fame career throwing one pitch.
Yeah, right.
It was coming and still couldn't hit it.
Yeah, no, wonderful fun to watch.
It only broke 4 inches at the most.
Yeah, the king of the broken bats, right? I mean, you know, there's only a few times that I've ever really thought I was watching somebody do something as well as it could possibly be done, right? I mean, Mariano Rivera.
It was his late break. He just had, you know, he discovered that pitch by accident, playing around in the bullpen at Tiger Stadium during a game.
I guarantee you that a Neanderthal wouldn't want any part of facing that.
No.
You understand what I mean? So it's like throwing that. Now, the same motion for throwing anything overhand, the same motion for using a ladle, is the same motion for swimming, right? So that like all that stuff is dependent on humans being.
And Neanderthal shoulders are not built to do that. How could? Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so that now.
Their chests are different. Their foreheads.
You ever wonder why we don't have fur?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, seals have fur. It's like, you know, a lot of the aquatic mammals have fur, but humans don't, right? Let me tell you what I think. If somebody asked me, like, why didn't God provide fur for humans? Why don't? I believe I know the answer to that, okay? It's like, I believe that the lack of fur is an adaptation for using fire in open and windy areas, especially, right? Now, that says that the Neanderthal had fire, but he had to be much more careful with it than a human had to be. An incident that would cause a minor burn to a human could light a Neanderthal up like a torch and fry him.
Yeah.
That says that humans could use torches as weapons out there in the open, right? Whereas Neanderthal couldn't. So you've got like a group, a Cro-Magnon war party only had to be like 2 or 3 times the size of the largest Neanderthal family group they ever figured to encounter. You got most of these guys standing there with the ladles. They got dogs there, which are going to negate any advantage that the Neanderthals might have had in the dark, right? You've got dogs there. You've got so many guys standing there with torches in their hands for any of the Neanderthals that gets past the ladles. I mean, it doesn't say, you know, it doesn't add up to the Neanderthals winning. You understand what I mean, right? It's like I think there were too many of the advantages were on the side of the humans. Now, if humans had to face like a cave lion or you know something else, then I think all these same questions would all apply. Now, the only thing that I can't picture humans living around very easily without automatic weapons would be velociraptors. And I don't know how humans ever lived around. I don't have a good theory for that one.
Yeah, like, you know, it's obvious. I don't think that this is our home planet. But
no.
No, I don't think so at all, because we're not indigenous to seawater, to salt water.
Well, Velikovsky said that the oceans became salty at the time of the flood. He said they weren't salty to begin with, even here on Earth.
Yeah, warm, salty water. Yeah, came
Yeah.
from the heavens.
Right.
Saturn.
Ganymede
Our water matches the water in Saturn's rings, and the sodium chloride. And they detected red vegetable matter in Saturn's rings, according to Velikovsky.
You're kidding.
No, that's what Velikovsky says in one of those essays that he didn't publish. It's on that the V archives. I'll have to find it.
Let's take a look.
Yeah.
Is your other friend still with us?
Yeah, they're just muted. They're just kicking back, listening. I told them both to feel free to ask a question if anything comes to mind, and they're just kind of into listening. They just wanted to listen.
What are names again? I'm sorry.
I got Andy and Nick, but I call them Adusa and Grouch. Andy is Grouch. Nick is Adusa.
Okay.
You guys with us, or you just?
Yeah, I'm still here, Ted. Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah.
And this stuff is boring. It's like you guys are getting something out of this.
No, it's interesting, and it's better sitting back listening to you and Greg talking than cutting in, and then you lose your train of thought.
Yeah. No, I want, feel free to ask a question whenever you want, guys. You can just come in whenever you want. Ted don't mind, and, it makes for lively discussion, But, yeah, they just like to chill and listen.
Are they aware of the fact there's new books?
The thing I say, Ted, the thing I say when, you talk about Neanderthal humans, possibility humans were a lot more agile, a lot more quicker, right? And I'd agree with that. We had the advantage of the ability to use fire. And
like
we were able to, if you've got a stick with a burning flame on it, you're gonna relatively be able to keep a lion pretty much at bay.
Well, let me run
for a while. And if you've got five of you together doing it, well, it's just totally confused to nothing.
Right. Let me show you guys something. Let me go to YouTube here, and you've heard of atlatls, right? Most people have some idea of what an atlatl is, but most of the videos that I've seen where people try to use atlatls don't show them doing a good job.
What's that one on the top right?
I'm sorry?
One on the top right there. Yeah. Oh, no.
Oh, the Dar Sizzle. D-A-R-C. Oh, she's my favorites.
Ooh, what is that?
Dar Sizzle is like a fishing expert. She and her husband and a couple of them go out off of Florida, and they catch all kinds of crazy fish.
Put some clothes on, woman.
She's got clothes on, but I mean just barely.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah,
look at me! Look at how sexy I am.
She's sexy enough. I mean, but she's like, you're not a spring chicken. I mean, she's like 40, 45 years old. I don't know. It's like, her husband's like maybe 50. I don't, they're not youngsters, right? But they're having, for people over 40 to be having that much fun should be illegal.
Yeah, life begins at 40.
Yeah, no, these people are having an incredible amount of fun out there.
Yeah.
That's Darcizzle. You might want to make a note of that.
Yeah, I'm not into fishing, but you'll go ahead now. Show me what you were going to show me on were you going to show me the? I was just kind of trying to be funny.
I'll show you what somebody using an atlatl properly looks like.
Okay, I think I've seen this before, but it's fine. Maybe someone else hasn't. This guy builds his own right out in the woods.
Oh yeah. It sounds like you have seen it.
Yeah, he showed it to me a couple of times. But that's okay. Go ahead and show it again. I like that bow and arrow. That looks pretty cool.
Right.
85 live chills. Oh my God! I gotta get it.
Oh man. Okay.
Yeah, you need an ad blocker.
Let me
You
just,
need an ad blocker.
when the guy starts using this thing. First part of this video, the guy creates this thing out of nothing. I mean, just with nothing more than like a.
He looks like one of those survival experts.
Oh yeah, you got nothing more than a hand axe, right? Nothing. I mean, he could have walked into the woods naked and come up with this thing. He's going to create this ladle and some ladle dart.
Anybody who can start a fire in 15 seconds without a match has got it going on.
The thing properly. He's turning his body into it.
Yeah, like a pitcher.
And you wouldn't want to get hit with this thing. And you feel like, compared to a bow, the bow is more accurate, right? But this thing may be more powerful. This thing may be more lethal. It would depend on what you're trying to kill. If you're trying to kill a white-tailed deer, then you'd rather have the bow in your hand, right? If you're trying to kill a mammoth or a cape buffalo, you might be better off with the ladle in your hand. But you see, most of the videos that I've seen that show people trying to use a ladle show them, basically.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, most of the videos I've seen with people using it ladles show them sort of like arm punching, right? They're using their arms and the wrists, but they're not stepping up into it. This guy's stepping up into it. He's turning body weight into the throw, right? And I think he's getting pretty nearly as much power as he has in his body into it. So I mean, you really wouldn't want to get hit with this. And these are like just sticks, right? I mean, he hasn't even made an effort to try to make these things, or to put feathers on the rear of them, have them try to fly straight, isn't that right? Yeah, but to me that's pretty impressive. And that's the, and you can believe that these people from Ganymede, these Cro-Magnon people, would have been getting every ounce of power in their body. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, their brains were 15% bigger too than ours. That's what they claim.
I don't know how meaningful that is, nonetheless.
Yeah, well,
I mean, the Cro-Magnon people were modern people. They were
that art that they drew down in them caves at by torchlight? It's like looks 3D. Some of it.
Oh yeah. Cro-Magnon artwork is unbelievable. I mean, it's like
exactly.
It's good. You heard what?
Yeah, they could build intricate traps and all kinds of things.
Right. What was the guy's name? It was like one of the great artists of the last century. It said that Cro-Magnon artwork was as good as anything there was.
Picasso.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so the Cro-Magnon artwork is particularly that you have this cave at Lascaux,
mm-hmm.
which is some people call it the Cro-Magnon Sistine Chapel. All these pictures of Ice Age animals, right? I mean, horses and, woolly mammoths.
It mystifies me why they have it closed off to the public. They say they don't want the art to wear out or some stupid thing like that, and they have it in a climate control. But I mean, you could climate control those walls and still have people walk through. It would be a gold mine. They're hiding something. They have to be.
I don't know about hiding things, right? It's like.
Well, they just don't want people to look at the intricacies. They've got certain things that's been worked into it, like the distance to stars and some. I've heard this now. I don't know for sure, but the speed of light and stuff like that. I saw one video that claimed those things. I'll have to find a confirmation. I don't know if it's true or not.
Right.
Because it's geometric, you know. Some guy was talking about it. I saw in a video a couple of years ago. I really shouldn't even have mentioned it, but it came to my mind. I'm going to try to find that video again. That they said that there's secrets of the universe embedded within the art. I don't know if it's true.
Okay. Greg, I don't know if you've ever taken that hard a look at Cosmos in Collision, you know.
Of course, yeah. I've looked at it. I've read a few chapters.
It's
well written.
Okay, there's several areas that goes into, right? One is like this question of, you know, human versus hominids. You know, it turns out we completely destroy the whole question of the whole idea of humans being descended from hominids or having interbred with hominids, right? I mean,
I never thought they were.
Okay, so that like there's this question of a relationship, what relationship there ever was between humans and hominids, right? Now another question is, what are the relationships between human groups on the Earth now? Okay, and you know you've got the present
different blood types.
You've got different blood types. You've got the racial divides, right? You've got like what they assume to be 3 main racial groups. Nonetheless, you know, if you had like me sitting here at a table, just an ordinary white guy, right? If you had me sitting here at a table and like an Australian native, right? Like an Australian Aborigine, and an ordinary African American, right? Which two would you think normally would be more closely related?
You and the African American?
Yeah. Okay. Well,
or you and the Aboriginal?
No. Which an Aborigine, an ordinary American Negro, and then me. You know, who would you? Of the 3, which 2 would you think were more closely related?
You and the
The African and the Australian.
Okay,
well,
the
African and the Australian.
That's the correct answer. That's
okay.
That's the answer as to what. I'm sorry, I just said that wrong.
I thought it was going to be a trick question.
That is the answer most people would give, right? That is the answer I would expect to hear most of the time. Okay, I believe that's the wrong answer. I believe that I believe most Black Africans are descended from Adam and Noah. I think most of us are descended from Adam and Noah. But the Australian Aborigine isn't. The Australian Aborigine is a Cro-Magnon descendant.
They do look different.
Okay, now here's the hell of it. It's like, so that the important distinctions, I think, are the historical distinctions, and you've got other groups in the world which appear to be Cro-Magnon descendants, right? You've got like the Ganch people of the Canary Islands, right? I'm sorry, I just said that wrong? Yeah, the Canary Islands. You've got the Basque people of northern Spain, southern France, right? And these are Cro-Magnon descendants, but they're light-skinned. Okay, you understand what I'm saying? Color doesn't seem to be that big a part of it, or at least not anymore.
Right, as long as the genetics, you know, the
blood types are part of it, but even that has been mixed so thoroughly over the last several centuries.
Yeah, you wonder where does blood come from? What is it actually? You know, it's the substance of life, you know, but there's different blood types too.
Right. There's a see if I can find it somewhere here.
Then there's the Rh negative factor.
Yeah, right. That's a major point. You know, nonetheless, I don't believe that's that's decisive or anything.
It could be that more than one planet was inhabited, and this was the last one left.
We know 3 planets that were inhabited. We know of at least 3 bodies that were inhabited in ancient times, like Earth, Mars, and Ganymede, right? There might have been a couple more.
Right.
We don't really know. Now, there's another kind of a nexus which says that people living in Ganymede, people living within the system before the shit hit the fan saw that there was a day of the shit hitting the fan coming, and they did not have a way to know if anything in the system is going to remain habitable after this final capture of the southern group. Okay, so they would have tried to do 2 things. They would have tried to engineer some kind of a very large escape from the system. Okay, they would have tried to engineer some kind of a way of getting as many people completely out of the system as they could. And I believe that's why you have some of these gigantic things which appear to be space stations, like Phobos, Mars, little moon Phobos appears to be a space station.
Right, yeah.
That's related somehow or other to this attempt at an escape. Right now, there's a couple of other things that's lying around the system which appear to be also related.
That would imply there was a spacefaring civilization, though, right?
By the time you get to the shit hits the fan event, I believe you have to assume the people on Mars and Ganymede were spacefaring. I have to believe the civilization on Mars was taken from Ganymede, right? That was derived. What they find on Mars indicates a high level of technology. Okay, now the people that came to Earth, the first Cro-Magnon people, came to Earth were culturally very sophisticated, but they were not technologically sophisticated. They didn't get here in rocket ships. They got here in some haphazard event, which I believe is this near capture event that you had before the final capture.
Do you know who the lady is that worked for HUD? And she's talking about $21 trillion missing.
Oh, yeah.
What's her name? She's got 3 names.
Catherine Fitz is one she is.
Yes, Catherine Austin Fitz.
Austin Fitz.
I was listening to her on a episode of Dark Journalist. I watch him occasionally, and he was interviewing her. And she said something that caught my attention. She said that Voyager 2 went black after it discovered an alien mothership inside Saturn's rings.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, she said, I couldn't believe it. I said, wow, for someone who was in the government, pretty high, she was the director of HUD, to say that she's either off her rocker or she's telling the truth. And we didn't hear from Voyager 2 after that. They shut it off.
Yeah. Well, I saw her at a conference in Bastrop, Texas, which is like an exurb of Austin. Okay. Mm-hmm. And the question, this was called a secret science or secret space program conference. And the main question people had for her is, being like a main government and money expert, has enough money gone missing in the Pentagon budgets to pay for a secret space program, including a manned mission to Mars? Mm-hmm. And the answer was, oh yeah, no problem. Mm-hmm. Enough money and more than enough money has gone missing, from Pentagon budgets to pay for everything. Now, you guys know about my little web page about Mars missions, right?
Yeah, manned space secret. Yeah, I've seen it before, yeah. Many times.
Yeah, okay. On bareforbrief.org is a section which is called Black Space, our Black Ops Space Program, right?
I like how you got that set up. I wouldn't mind having something like that.
I'm sorry?
I like how you got this set up. You can just click it and go to the website.
Oh yeah.
I want to get that. You're gonna have to teach me how to do that.
I'm using Opera in this case, and it's like
okay.
On my
different server. I see.
I'm using
different browser.
Then on the other computers, the Linux computers in the other rooms, It's like I'm using an upgraded version of this Opera browser, which is called Vivaldi.
That looked like Google Chrome, though, with all the tabs on it. Was that what it was, or no?
Originally, I had Google Chrome up, for the stuff which involved that dinosaur story.
Okay.
Because I had to have Google Translate, right? Google Translate only works with Chrome.
Gotcha.
The Spanish
You can use Ted. You can get Translate with Opera. Google Translate. There is a whatchamacallit in Opera that you can do it, and it just comes up on the top just under the top there, along where you type in, where the address comes up, and you just click on it or right click, and you can just go translate, and it'll do it. So you can get one for Chrome that is a Google one, because I've got the same setup you've got.
Okay. Thank you. I didn't know that was possible. I'd assumed it wasn't. Bin knowledge products. bearfabrique.org, like a bear in the woods, and then Fabrique. Like the French spelling, right? Like fabrique, like you're going to fabricate something, bear factory. Okay. The ordinary word for factory in Europe, right? bearfabrique.org. Our Black Op Man space program, right? The question of electrogravitic. Okay, the pictures of Mars, right? These first two files are pictures of Mars. And then the question of how you get to Mars or Ganymede without stuff. You see, I don't think anybody could get to Mars or Ganymede by anything that was powered by rocket engines, right? I don't think you could do it. I don't think a human astronaut would survive a year-long trip to Mars even.
If you could get there in 30 minutes, it would be possible.
For about 30 minutes, but it's like when you start talking about Biefeld-Brown propulsion, then you're not talking about months or years or anything like that. You're not even talking about months or years to get to Alpha Centauri. I suspect these people have to have been to Alpha Centauri by now, Proxima Centauri.
I think we're definitely perusing the solar system, at least.
You've got. Well, I think we're way past that. It's like you've got recent U.S. Navy patents which are related to space exploration and travel. Okay, nuclear fusion, inertial mass reduction. Okay, if you're going to, I mean, if you're going to be
TR3B.
Yeah, the TR3B.
How they have a TR3G.
Okay, hybrid air underwater craft. I'm not interested in that. The Navy considering declassification, right? But the inertial. Okay, the nuclear fusion for power, like for Biefeld-Brown propulsion, is a killer, and it's like the idea of reducing inertial mass of the space vehicle is a killer. And what looks to me to be the case is that the Navy, this is not new stuff. This isn't brand new, and they just created it all brand new and patented it a couple of years ago. They just finally decided, like, there are too many problems with us leaving this stuff without having patents for it. It's like somebody else might try to patent it and then charge us for our own technology, right? We can't have that. So,
yeah. Sadly.
That's what that is. And then of all of these things, the most interesting might be this: the question of these 4 documents which are sitting here. Electric propulsion, this Ben Rich.
Yeah.
There may be an explanation for this image.
But we'll get into Mars next time, Ted. We should save Mars for next time.
Right.
Because we've gotten into it already.
Class expert, the guy that invented the stealth aircraft.
Yeah.
Well, the father of stealth, it said that in 1993, he said we already have the means to travel among the stars, but those technologies are locked up in black projects, and it would take an act of God to ever get them and to ever get them out to benefit humanity. Anything you can imagine, we already know how to do.
Yeah, that is pretty crazy.
That's a pretty wild statement, don't you
Yeah.
think? So that I think if they can get to Mars,
He's
and
not the kind of a guy who would be on drugs talking out of his butt.
no. This is the guy that created the F-117.
Right. Yeah.
You know, very interesting.
Yeah, we definitely have something going on out there.
I think you said like maybe 90 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, I found it's best if we stay within 90 minutes because it's easier for people to digest,
Right.
The 2 hours gets a little, you get a little raggedy around the edges. I would say most people probably, on my little accolades thing, it tells me all my little stats. It says average view is about 26 minutes.
Right.
That's the average view.
I think you've got enough material here for two little 20 or 30 minute takes.
Yeah. I'll cut it in two parts and make it brief. Yeah.
I mean, one being the new super dinosaur, the other being the question of Venus versus Neptune.
And then we can get into the secret space and Mars and all that another time. We can set it up and do it.
Right. Now, this is good stuff. And glad that a couple of your friends are able to join in.
Yeah. I wish they would have been a little bit more participant, but that's okay.
Well, no, because I found last time Ed has these, and you can always then come back and ask questions.
Yeah. Usually
and it's easy to come back now and ask questions and discuss it, than chipping in through when things going along.
Should I stop? I'm going to stop the recording now.
Yeah.
And we can just chit chat.
Cool.
Okay. We're over here. All right. Then we can just chat.
carrying your water. You cheat and you lie, and abuse that your father.
Large Magellanic Cloud, also called LMC, is a satellite galaxy of the Milky Way at a distance of about 50 kiloparsecs. That's kilos 1,000 and parsecs, 50,000 parsecs. And because I knew you'd ask or you'd be interested, 1 parsec is equivalent to approximately 31 trillion miles, or 210,000 astronomical units, and equates to about 3.3 light years. So if it's 50 kiloparsecs, that's a kiloparsec is 1,000 parsecs. So it's 50,000 parsecs away. So it would be 50,000 times 210,000 to find out how many light years. That's why they got to do all that math, you see. And I lost interest in math when they started adding the alphabet. It's just boring. I can't help it. Anyways, parsec is obtained by the use of parallax and trigonometry, and is defined as the distance at which one astronomical unit subtends an angle of 1 arcsecond, 1/3600th of a degree. This corresponds approximately to 648,000 pi. Astronomical units, i.e. 1 piece equals 1 AU/TAN, 1 inch. The LMC is the second or third closest galaxy to the Milky Way, after the Sagittarius dwarf spheroidal, and the possible dwarf irregular galaxy known as Canis Major over density. The diameter of the LMC is about 14,000 light years, making it roughly 1/100th as massive as the Milky Way. This makes the LMC, the Large Magellanic Cloud, the fourth largest galaxy in the local group, after the Andromeda Galaxy, M31, the Milky Way, and the Triangulum Galaxy, M33. Could have swore I already read this. The LMC is classified as a Magellanic spiral. It contains a stellar bar that is geometrically off-center, suggesting that it was a bar-dwarf spiral galaxy before. Its spiral arms were disrupted, or it could just be forming them, likely by tidal interactions from the small Magellanic Cloud. Tidal interactions in space, trying to understand what they mean. Gravity? It's got to be electrical. And the Milky Way's gravity. So basically, that's what the LMC is, and I did read down here. The Large Magellanic Cloud has a prominent central bar and a spiral arm. The central bar seems to be warped so that the east and west ends are nearer the Milky Way than the middle. In 2014, measurements from the Hubble telescope made it possible to determine that the LMC has a rotation period of about 250 million years. The LMC was long considered to be a planar galaxy that could be assumed to lie at a single distance from the solar system. However, 1986, Caldwell and Coulson found that field Cepheid variables in the northeast lie closer to the Milky Way than those in the southeast. From 2001 to 2002, this inclined geometry was confirmed by the same means, by core helium-burning red clump stars, and by the tip of the red giant branch of electricity. LMC's disk is both thick and flared. And there's one more thing I wanted to... Like many irregular galaxies, the LMC is rich in gas and dust, and is currently undergoing vigorous star formation activity. Galaxy. It holds the Tarantula Nebula, the most active star-forming region in the local group. That doesn't seem to be a galaxy on its way out. It seems to be a galaxy on its way up. The LMC has a wide range of galactic objects and phenomena that make it known as an astronomical treasure house, a great celestial laboratory to the study of the growth of the evolution of stars. Per Robert Burnham Jr., surveys of the galaxy have found roughly 60 globular clusters, 400 planetary nebula, and 700 open clusters, along with hundreds of thousands of giant and supergiant stars. Jump over to thunderbolts here. The largest dwarf. Vista telescope image of the Large Magellanic Cloud, a dwarf galaxy orbiting the Milky Way. Stars and clusters within the Large Magellanic Cloud, LMC, do not conform to standard model. Any man who can hitch the length and breadth of the galaxy, rough it, slum it, struggle against terrible odds, win through, and still knows where his towel is clearly a man to be reckoned with. Douglas Adams. The LMC is a relatively small, irregular galaxy, approximately 168,000 light-years from Earth. The distance is approximate, because different parallax values are obtained when different measuring sticks are used. Remember what I told you, even how they know how far stars away is a theory. Within the LMC are objects commonly referred to as supernova remnants. Since the prevailing theories of stellar evolution describe a particular kind of death when stars are extremely massive, they are short-lived, converting mass into radiant energy at a furious rate through a process of nuclear fusion. Once their nuclear fuel is exhausted, they implode. blowing off their outer shells of gas and dust. The standard theory of star formation is based on gravity, which is supposed to concentrate dust and gas into smaller and smaller dimensions until fusion transforms matter into a plasma state. Regions where the gas is most dense are where more stars should be born. However, different observations find that stars on the outside of many nebulae in the LMC are older than those inside. This is considered to be mysterious by consensus astrophysicists. In an electric universe, gravity is most often overshadowed by plasma's behavior. Stars are the loci of galactic z-pinches in Birkeland currents. As written elsewhere many times, positive charge builds up on one side of a double layer and negative charge on the other. Strong electric fields initiate electric charge flow through nebular plasmas, causing charges to spiral down into filaments that can eventually form arc mode or glow mode emissions. Stephen Smith. Just thought I'd throw that in there since we were on the LMC. It's always good to hear from the Thunderbolts group. A couple of things on Seyfert galaxies in case you're wondering. I did a little digging on them. Basically, according to mainstream now, Seyfert galaxy, any of a class of galaxies known to have an active nuclei. Such galaxies were named after the American astronomer Carl Seyfert. Seyfert galaxies appear normal in ordinary images, but are extremely strong sources of infrared radiation. Moreover, many are powerful sources of radio energy and X-rays as well. And I picked this here. A Seyfert flare is not really a common term. The authors refer to an energetic outburst from the type of active galaxies called Seyfert galaxies. What do you suppose that energy is? There's only one kind of energy that I know about, and that's electricity. Them Seyfert flares are when they bear quasars. Halton Arp produced such a body of work that is corroborating his research that he wrote a book with it, and they still pretend that he either didn't exist or that he was debunked. And neither one is. They just make it up as they go. Halton Arp proved beyond a reasonable doubt that quasars are proto-galaxies born from the immense sea of plasma at the core of the galaxy when they are in their active period. They're called Seyfert galaxies. And I would maintain that they have their young when they're young, then they settle down and live their lives. So the Milky Way has already had its children. But every galaxy probably goes through this metamorphosis, and new galaxies are born continuously. Life is being reborn every second in the universe. Then the universe would no doubt be eternal, with galaxies constantly being born. Who knows how long has been here? There's no way they can even get close to knowing. They don't even know what a quasar is. I saw a question on a website. Could the Milky Way turn into a quasar? That's mainstream. Since a quasar, by all indicators from the empirical research of Halton Arp, a proto-galaxy. Just so you know, proto means original or primitive. And the Milky Way is who knows how old. No, it could never be a quasar again. At least I don't think so. That would be like people reverting back to babies. The Milky Way's young would probably be the Magellanic Clouds. And now I read that they discovered a dwarf galaxy. You see, they're clever. We see quasars coming out of galaxies and they make up gravitational lensing and defeat it in their minds. And that's how we do science, I guess. It's the single bullet theory of cosmology, or should I say the magic bullet.
The arrow. Time.
What does a dead galaxy look like? I don't think I've ever seen one. The Ice Age and the Antiquity of Man. The mammoth lived in the age of man. Man pictured it on the walls of caves. Remains of men have repeatedly been found in Central Europe together with the remains of mammoths. Occasionally, the settlements of Neolithic man of Europe are found strewn with the bones of mammoths. Man moved southward when Europe was covered with ice, and returned when the ice retreated. Historical man witnessed great variation in climate. The man of Siberia, the meat of which is still fresh, is supposed to have been destroyed at the end of the last glacial period, simultaneously with the mammoths of Europe and Alaska. If this is so, the Siberian mammoth was also the contemporary of a rather modern man. At the time when Europe, close to the ice sheet, man was still in the later stages of Neolithic culture, in the Near and Middle East, the region of the great cultures of antiquity. He may already have progressed well into the Metal Age. There exists no chronological table of Neolithic culture because the art of writing was invented approximately at the advent of the copper, the early period of the Bronze Age. It is presumed that the Neolithic man of Europe left pictures but no inscriptions, and consequently there are no means of determining the end of the Ice Age in terms of chronology. Geologists have tried to find the time of the end of the last glacial period by measuring the detritus carried by rivers from the glaciers and the deposits of detritus in lakes, the quantity carried by the Rhone from the glaciers of the Alps, and the amount on the bottom of Lake Geneva through which the Rhone flows were calculated, and from the figures obtained the time and velocity of the retreat of the glacial sheet of the last glacial period were estimated. According to the Swiss scholar Francis Forel, 12,000 years have passed since the time the ice sheet of the last glacial period began to melt, an unexpectedly low figure, as it was thought that the Ice Age ended 30 to 50,000 years ago. Such calculations suffer from being only indirect evaluations, and since the velocity at which the glacial mud had been deposited in the lakes was not constant and the amount varied, the mud must have assembled on the bottom of the lake at a faster rate in the beginning when the glaciers were larger, and if the Ice Age terminated suddenly, the deposition of detritus would have been much heavier at first, and there would be little analogy to the accumulation of detritus from the seasonal melting of snow in the Alps. Therefore, the time that has elapsed since the end of the last glacial period must have been even shorter than reckoned. Geologists regard the Great Lakes of America as having been formed at the end of the Ice Age, when continental glacier retreated and the depressions freed from glacier became lakes. In the last 200 years, Niagara Falls has retreated from Lake Ontario toward Lake Erie at a rate of about 5 feet annually, washing down the rocks of the bed of the falls. This process has been going on at the same rate since the end of the last glacial period. About 7,000 years were needed to move Niagara Falls from its present position. The assumption that the quantity of water moving through the gorge has been uniform since the end of the Ice Age is the basis of this calculation, and therefore it has concluded 7,000 years may constitute the maximum length of time since the birth of the falls. In the beginning, when immense masses of water were released by the retreat of the continental glacier, the rate of movement of Niagara Falls must have been much more rapid. The time estimate may need significant reduction, and is sometimes lowered to 5,000 years. The erosion and sedimentation of the shores and the bottom of Lake Michigan also suggest a lapse of time counted in thousands, but not in tens of thousands of years. Also, the result of paleontological research in America carries evidence which constitutes a guarantee that before the last period of glaciation, Modern man in the form of that highly developed race, the American Indian, was living on the eastern seaboard of North America. It is assumed that with the advent of the last glacial period, the Indians retreated southward, returning to the north when the ice uncovered the ground, and when the Great Lakes emerged, the basin of St. Lawrence was formed, and Niagara Falls began its retreat toward Lake Erie. If the end of the last glacial period occurred only a few thousand years ago, in historical times, or at a time when the art of writing made in the centers of ancient civilization, rocks by nature, and the records written by man must give a coordinated picture. Let us therefore investigate the traditions. And the literary records of ancient man and compare them with the records of nature. Shamanism assumes that everything has a soul. The people, the trees, the animals, the stones, and so on. Everything is connected to everything. Everything is equal with everything and is part of the Great Spirit. Shamanism is of all times and occurs on every continent, but originated in eastern Siberia and Mongolia. The word shaman comes from the Tungus, a Siberian language, and means the aesthetic anthropologist assumes that shamanism originated in the Old Stone Age. It is probably the forerunner of many other religious and magical traditions. Shamanism now. Some Native Americans assume Western people of myths using their rituals and views, and they are quite right, because Western society has little information about their own ancient rituals and the customs of their ancestors. And yet we feel the shamanic attraction, and we want to delve into this. But because the current knowledge of shamanism is based on that of cultures in which this still plays a role, it is also logical that our attention mainly focuses on the shamanism of Native Americans. Universal symbolism. Many shamanistic views and utterances use a universal symbolism and are therefore not specifically culture related. Although we are, of course, always connected to the country where we live, so there will be differences for each region and people. What is a shaman? A shaman is a kind of bridge, an intermediary between the people and the spirit world. The shaman also works for people who have problems or are ill. The shaman tries to rebalance disturbed balance. With ritual dances and drums, rattles, and the voice, the shaman evokes a state of consciousness with which he brings himself into a trance, a state of mind that makes it possible to travel through different worlds and to make contact with personal helper spirits. Such a ritual almost always follows a fixed pattern. The shaman dances and sings, often in special clothing, and uses a drum or rattle to get into trance. When the shaman returns from the travels, he reports on his journey to other worlds. There are 3 worlds, an upper and an underworld, and the world as we know it, the physical world. The latter is called the middle world. In these other worlds, you will find guides, spirits, and ancestors. During his training, a shaman gains the skill to make contact with other worlds, supported by helpers such as totem animals, totem trees, and nature beings. When shamans go into a trance, their soul travels to the upper world to favor the gods, and to the underworld to recover the souls of sick people, or to accompany those of deceased people. Many shamans say that they travel to the upper world as a bird. In the past, a shaman within a community had, as it were, the function of priest, healer, and clairvoyant. The modern shaman still assumes that the natural balance between earthly and spiritual matters is disrupted in the case of problems of humans and animals. Shamans are always employed by the community and have different tasks depending on their talent. Women have traditionally been mainly occupied with herbal medicine, taking care of wounds and other medical problems with an identifiable cause. Women have also been active as midwives since time immemorial. In fact, you can perform rituals in any environment. In a forest, but also in your own back garden, even in your bedroom. To bring shamanism into our lives, we do not have to reproduce the rituals of other peoples one by one. Guides can also contact you through your dreams. Look around you at what is now playing a role in your life, and ask yourself, what is needed in your immediate environment? Look for the balance and offer support where necessary and desirable. Do not insist on anything. Respect your fellow man, including those with a different opinion.
Reset Act.
Korkapelli is an ancient character, dancing flute player, whose oldest manifestation is found on prehistoric American rock carvings. The origins of the figure are a mystery, and he figures in many Native American stories, where his age and role vary. He is generally believed to have been a fertility symbol, often depicted as a phallic character, carrying a pouch of seeds or wearing antlers. Kokopelli symbols often appear in the context of rain, pregnancy, prosperity, and marriage. Power animals. In shamanic belief, everything is alive and carries with it power and wisdom. Power animals are an essential component of shamanic practice. They are the helping spirit, which add the power of the shaman and are essential for success in any venture undertaken by the shaman. Shamans believe that everyone has power animals, animal spirits which reside with each individual, adding to their power and protecting them from illness, acting similarly to a guardian angel. Each power animal that you have increases your power so that illnesses or negative energy cannot enter your body. The spirit also lends you the wisdom of its kind. A hawk spirit will give you hawk wisdom and lend you some of the attributes of the hawk. Everyone has a power animal. Everyone is thought to have a few of these guardian power animals from childhood on. Over the course of her or his life, the person may have several, especially if you were an animal in a previous life, I would think. If a power animal leaves and one does not come to take its place, the individual is considered by the shaman to be disempowered and therefore vulnerable to illness and bad luck. Power animal retrieval is a healing where the shaman goes to find a new power animal for you. Power animals do not have to be mammals and can be reptiles, insects, or sea creatures. Any living creature can serve as a power animal. Trees can serve as plant and spirit guides. Domesticated animals are generally not considered power animals because they are already in service to human beings. It is possible to have a domesticated animal, but it is more likely to have a wild, untamed animal serve in the capacity of power animal. The gifts that a particular animal is thought to give an individual varies depending on the culture, although there are certain consistencies for certain animals. A particular power animal can come to help you with an issue that is very specific for you. It is important not to lock each animal into a category and be open to the gifts it may be coming to share with you. If you are looking for a book on power animals, Animal Speak by Ted Andrews is very popular. A popular website that describes the qualities of various power animals is www.animalspirits.com. Honoring power animals. It is important to honor your power animal. In many Western cultures, we are not taught to value animals or the gifts that they add to our lives and the world around us. In shamanic work, the power animal is essential. For a shaman who has no power is not going to have very good results. On a personal level, by honoring your power animal, you let it know that its assistance is appreciated. The spirit of the animal is giving up its mobility in order to spend its time with you and assist you with your life. Also, by honoring the power animal, we make deeper connection with it. Honoring it can be as simple as saying a thank you inside yourself, or getting an object which represents it and putting it where you can see it as you go. The Korkapelli figure. Shamanic practice, going 35 miles an hour and just walk away from it. He spent a week in the hospital, but his healing was just nothing short of miraculous. Perhaps his power animals were looking out for him. Finding your power animal. If you would like to find out who your power animal is, consulting a shamanic practitioner is an option. But to discover this on your own, you can ask for a dream and see if anything comes up. You can ask the power animal to show itself to you, and if you start seeing one or another animal frequently, that would be its best way of revealing itself to you. For instance, you are flipping through the channels and see an elk on a nature program. Then later you hear someone talking about going to Elk Grove Village to visit your cousin. you see a sign for an Elks Lodge. It is believed that the animal guide can communicate with you by drawing your attention to things around you, and a repetition such as that would be a way of communication. I scoff at nothing, because of course some things sound out there, but that's only because I'm not familiar with that. Why do spirits communicate in symbols? Anyone who has done a few shamanic journeys knows that questions are very rarely answered with yes or no answer. You may also visit a shaman and find that the information they give you is frustrating or doesn't seem to be clear. Why do journeys get communicated in stories and symbols? The information that comes on a shamanic journey is almost always trying to convey something deeper that can be put into words. Words can be rather limited in what they can convey, and yes or no answers do not often convey much depth of understanding or truth. If you take a moment to think about word meaning, you can see what I mean. For instance, what does it mean when someone says they are sad? How much is it? How strong? Is it light or heavy? Is it passing through in the moment? A person would have to use a bunch of words if they wanted to convey exactly in which way they are feeling sad. Many of the words we use have this limitation, and the purpose of a journey is not just to answer a question. There's a deeper reality to any question you pose. Why you are having trouble finding a job right now? What would you need in order to move forward? Even questions of should I or should I not do this thing are tied to more than one aspect of your life, your being and your history. So when you get an answer, it is in the form of a story or a metaphor, or even a sensation or a smell. It is meant to convey something. The stories and metaphors are usually not literal. When you ask a question in a journey, the purpose of the answer is not only to give you a deeper understanding, but it is also meant to shift you into a new direction. Sometimes you get an answer that makes no sense to you, and one day what it means becomes clear. Sometimes the answer may never be clear to you. The answer may not need to be clear. That is, because a journey answer is meant to speak to you on many levels. Some of these are levels that you may not be conscious of. Your subconscious is aware of a bunch of stuff that you never think out loud. For instance, many of us have had that moment where we said, I knew there was something wrong with that person. Maybe it was a boyfriend or a girlfriend, neighbor, or business associate. I'm not talking about instances of hindsight, but times where you realize only after the fact that you knew all along that there was something wrong with that person, that you kept telling yourself you could trust. The way I think of it is that you did know, but you didn't know out loud. You weren't fully conscious of knowing, and therefore your knowing was more like a whisper. I get it all the time. I just assume it's intuition. So when you get a symbol, this includes a story, sensation, a metaphor, or a song. And it speaks to this deeper part of yourself. This part of you knows what the symbol means in a quiet way. Once that part of you receives the information, shifts can occur at this deeper level. You didn't know that the lion answered your question, but you begin to start considering bold ways to approach your problem. The rain and the somber field you saw in your journey did not seem related to the question, but a few days or a week down the road, a forgotten memory comes back to you and gives you information on why you're stuck right now. The field and the rain conveying a feeling, and a deeper part of yourself found that related memory and brought it back into your awareness. I'm always drawn to the rain. That's something about it. I can't really explain it, but I love rainstorms. Shamanic answers are meant to penetrate your being and to be penetrated by you as you work to understand them. In the process, you may or may not be able to see how changes are occurring in your life. Some people keep a journal of their journeys and then go back later to reread them later. I have heard people talk about something they've journeyed on becoming clear later, or being able to see that each journey plugged into a greater picture conveyed over time. There's no telling what a journey answer's ultimate purpose is. Even a yes or no answer is likely deeper than you think. I used to journey and ask questions like, are you really sure I should be a healer? I would get the answer, no. And in pause, I'd feel insecure and think, that can't be right. Then the second part of the answer would come, I know, you should be a healer. I tend to get this answer most often when I already knew the answer to my question and was only asking out of insecurity. This particular way of answering my question evoked my own knowing, my true knowledge of the answer. A symbol, a story, a scent, or a feeling in a journey is meant to cut through, reach into and beyond our everyday understanding. Answers are not meant to be as easy as a grab-and-go sandwich or to address what is purely mental, as say, understanding how gravity works. The spirits or images that come to answer your questions have a rather reaching goal than you getting a factual piece of information. Somehow, the answers fit into the totality of your life and your needs. What could be healed for you, and what you have the possibility to create. Perhaps, in the end, people who stay with the shamanic journey are those who are looking for deeper changes. It's perfectly okay if this doesn't suit what you want or need, but it might be worth giving it a try. The efficiency of shamanic work is only ever judged on the results, and sometimes the results of journeys can only be seen or understood over time. Quite a bit more here, but I think I'll stop now on this. All right, a little bit more. Protecting yourself from negative energy. One of the best ways to protect yourself from negative energy is to make sure you are filled with good energy yourself. However, the stress of our lives can mean that we aren't always as filled with our own energy as we might like. Sometimes protecting yourself is needed to make sure you don't take on negative energy. Also, new shamanic healers may be interacting and calling energies that they hadn't been used to dealing with. They can need protection while they are learning how to manage these energies. What is negative energy? Negative energy is not bad energy. Rather, it is something that is not helping to make you healthier, or it is weighing you down in some way. Your own stress and worry can be stored in your body as negative energy. I think scientifically they have proven that. Stress affects your DNA. Once the stress is stored in a part of your body, it can cause a weakness, where that can lead to an illness. As for sources of negative energy outside of you, these can come from a variety of sources. Other people's emotions are the most common source. Spending time in place where people are stressed out can cause you to absorb some of that energy. People who are envious of you can unconsciously send energy to you that is not helpful. Someone gets angry in traffic, and they can send anger at you. Sometimes an environment will be filled with negative energy. In some cases, the energy simply might not be compatible with you. For instance, some people feel drained by the busy bustle of a city. Where someone else is not compatible with your energy, you can feel drained. You know what drains me? Is when someone proclaims themselves to be not mean that the place is a bad place, just that the energy never got transformed. It is stuck.
I had to be mad at my
isn't
ex.
flowing and changing as it is meant to. Shamans are trained how to transform energy from one state into a more positive one. They use this ability to change energy within themselves and clear the energies in other people and spaces or environments. However, many people don't do it with people that were playing darts. They had a group of people not imagine anything, and they had another group of people imagine themselves throwing bullseyes. And the people that's more successful than the people who weren't. So that is another fact that has been proven.
Yeah, I have something on the mind over matter thing. I read this a couple of years ago, but it's stuck in my head. They did this survey or test, whatever you want to do it, with people with bad knees that needed a knee replacement. Well, according to this article, I remember because it was just like blew me away. Like half of the people didn't receive anything; they were just put to sleep. And the other half of the people received the knee replacement. And after 6 weeks, 75% of both groups said that they had no more pain left. So it can have a huge factor in everything. I've heard the cliche, thoughts are actions. Thoughts are fate. Yeah, thoughts are fate.
Thoughts are things.
So you got to be, not thinking that negative. If you get off track, you just get right back on. Okay, this is almost over. That's what it reminded me. Whether you know it or not, you have an innate ability to protect yourself from the energy that is not helpful or healthy to you. Using a visualization is one of the ways you can engage that ability. Even though you can't remember how to create protection, your body knows. So the visualization sends the message of what you want to do so that your body can do that. Most visualizations involve seeing yourself surrounded by protection of some kind. I do that all the time. My light is gold. Eventually, your visualizations won't be needed anymore as the protection becomes a habit. You don't want to be too heavily protected all the time, though. It's not healthy to be disconnected from your environment. Healthy energy protection should allow you to be more open to the world around you. Visualization that completely block out the energy of your environment should only be used occasionally, such as when you are in an especially negative environment. It's best that what you visualize allows positive energy to enter and leave through the protection. Some visualizations. Blue egg. Visualize a see-through blue egg that allows good energy to come in and out and keeps bad energy out. The egg surrounds you as you go about your day. Mirror. Visualize a mirror that bounces negativity energy back to the sender. This is especially good to use if you have one person that seems to be sending you negative energy all the time. You can use the mirror for that person only, rather than the heavy protection around you all the time. You see a mirror standing between yourself and that person, and that anything they send at you goes right back to them. Brick wall. Imagine a brick wall is a visualization. Imagining a brick wall is a visualization that you should only use for especially bad environments. It blocks all energy. If you have to use it all the time, such as at work, you may wish to consider other ways of protecting yourself, or ways of protecting your personal space with items as discussed below. You don't want to use a brick wall to become a habit. You don't want using a brick wall to become a habit. Methods. Many of the methods of energy protection involve filling yourself with positive energy. Things like pranic breathing, meditation, Tai Chi, or any number of methods can put you in a state where you are less likely to take on negative energy. Methods that affect the energy surrounding you can also be effective. Breathing is always a powerful way of managing your own energy and the energy surrounding you. Sound can also be powerful, and something as simple as humming can clear your space near you of negative energy. You can ask a guardian spirit or power animal to put protection around you. They will not do this unless asked, out of respect for your personal space. However, they can offer very powerful energy or to provide yourself protection personally. The Ice Age and the antiquity of...
I think that's...
You know what I would do is, if I was playing ball or something like that, where I needed my concentration, and doubts crept into my mind, because sometimes you get them doubts in your head, what if I fail? Well, you're on your way to fail. You got to know you're going to succeed. And I always imagine myself taking a little piece of paper and then throwing it away. Sometimes I actually make the throwing motion. Just get out of my head, And you're supposed to not think. It's just like anything else, If you're shooting a foul shot, if you're whatever, you have to concentrate. You're driving off the tee, or you're trying to put down an important putt. It's all the same. You got to have that confidence, because doubt is what helps you beat yourself. Hey, I just came up with that. That's pretty good. Let's write that down. All right, I got one more for you before I sail off into the west. Different skies. I'll be right. Man. The mammoth lived in the age of man. Man pictured it on the walls of caves. Remains of men have repeatedly been found in Central Europe together with the remains of mammoths. Occasionally, the settlements of Neolithic man of Europe are found strewn with the bones of mammoths. Man moved southward when Europe was covered with ice, and returned.
By the way, I'm in chat.
Historical
on
man
my
witnessed
Discord, if you want
great
to join me.
variation in climate. The man of Siberia, the meat of which is still fresh, is supposed to have been destroyed at the end of the last glacial period, simultaneously with the mammoths of Europe and Alaska. If this is so, the Siberian mammoth was also the contemporary of a rather modern man. At the time when Europe, close to the ice sheet, man was still in the later stages of Neolithic culture. In the Near and Middle East, the region of the great cultures of antiquity, he may already have progressed well into the Metal Age. There exists no chronological table of Neolithic culture because the art of writing was invented approximately at the advent of the copper, the early period of the Bronze Age. It is presumed that the Neolithic man of Europe left pictures but no inscriptions, and consequently there are no means of determining the end of the Ice Age in terms of chronology. Geologists have tried to find the time of the end of the last glacial period by measuring the detritus carried by rivers from the glaciers and the deposits of detritus in lakes, the quantity carried by the Rhone from the glaciers of the Alps, and the amount on the bottom of Lake Geneva through which the Rhone flows were calculated, and from the figures obtained the time and velocity of the retreat of the glacial sheet of the last glacial period were estimated. According to the Swiss scholar Francis Forel, 12,000 years have passed since the time the ice sheet of the last glacial period began to melt, an unexpectedly low figure, as it was thought that the Ice Age ended 30 to 50,000 years ago. Such calculations suffer from being only indirect evaluations, and since the velocity at which the glacial mud had been deposited in the lakes was not constant, and the amount varied, the mud must have assembled on the bottom of the lake at a faster rate in the beginning when the glaciers were larger, and if the Ice Age terminated suddenly, the deposition of detritus would have been much heavier at first, and there would be little analogy to the accumulation of detritus from the seasonal melting of snow in the Alps. Therefore, the time that has elapsed since the end of the last glacial period must have been even shorter than reckoned. Geologists regard the Great Lakes of America as having been formed at the end of the Ice Age, when continental glacier retreated and the depressions freed from glacier became lakes. In the last 200 years, Niagara Falls has retreated from Lake Ontario toward Lake Erie at a rate of about 5.
Yeah, I was right. We already heard that. I'm going to come out there and get ready for round 2. Just want to acknowledge who's here. Where are you? You know, it would help if I didn't have 20 tabs up. There you are. Well, let's see who's here. We got a pretty good crowd tonight. Thank you for coming, first of all. I'm going to say hello to you. Oh, I want to get you on TV first. Okay, you are on TV. Okay. And I want to say hello to Sticky Marks. Hello. Janice Phillips, huge supporter. Hello, Janice. Renegade, I'm glad to see you could make it. You didn't fall asleep. 6E7 and 6 tar 6. How are you doing? Good to meet you. Jasper Newcomb, good to see you. Renegade, how you doing, Renegade? And is that, see, I don't have my reading glasses on. And my eyes, I'm telling you, they're going to crap. Is that 6E7 in 6 tar 6? Okay. Nick, what's going on, buddy? I'm in chat if you want to come and see me. Well, that's about it from what I'm seeing here. You guys seem to be having a pretty good conversation. It's been going on for a minute. Ancient ways, I see you trying to sneak in there. I got you, though. And that's about it. And knowledge. Knowledge. That's good. Rutger Sturm. That name always gets me. Makes me think I'm drunk. Look at it. Well, that's about it. Okay. Well, it's good for everybody. It's really good to see everybody. And if there's any kind of request that anybody has, something that they want to see, if you just shoot it out to me, and I will do my best to get it to you. Buried Axeblade, what's up? It's good to see you. There's Cryptophagia. I believe that's Chris. I haven't heard from you in a while, Chris, but it's really good to see you. You know where I can be found about this time of night. I wanted to make sure I got the Discord info to you, and just in case anybody's thinking about a donation, I'm going to put the information in the description and chat for you, because I always, I never think of that, and I need to start doing that, of course, just in case anybody, might want to provide a little tip for a starving artist. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Yeah, business. Gotta do it. I try not to drown people in it, because I don't like being it. Constantly reminded myself, so I know what that's like. That's the Patreon. I'll get you the PayPal in a little bit, and I'm going to get you my Discord, our Discord, not my Discord, channel. And we have a lot of really cool members. We like to share knowledge, articles and videos and whatnot. And it's fun. So if you haven't joined, please think about it. The more the merrier, And here is the link to the Discord channel. And I'll be back with the PayPal in a little bit. Hello, Rod. You don't hear anything? Oh, my God. Oh, I just had a nightmare. No, my mic's working. I hope you guys can hear me. I better... Hold on. I'm looking at the settings. Audio. Yeah, my microphone's on. And I got the speakers on. Yeah, everything's everything. I just hope you guys can hear me. I'm going to come back. Can you hear me? Hi, Sixon. 6E7. Not ancient way on, no. Can you hear you fine? Good, Scott, thank you. Okay, well, we're going to end this round, and I don't want to make one video too long. So we're going to end this stream, and I'm going to start another one up. So please join me. You'll see it pop up in like 1 minute. Okay? Thank you for coming. I love you, and I'll see you very soon.